And we are live. No, yeah, we're good. Oh,
We
the
are.
in broadcast button's like a big red thing now, and it's been so long since we've done one. Hey, everybody, it's Mojo Blues here, and Gray Wolf Gamer, aka actually it says Wolven now under your name. So, but before you were the
Yep.
gaming
It
werewolf.
was always it was yeah, it was always Wolven. I just put it in for so people know. I go by different names. Hey
I've been
everyone.
tweeting out all day that you're the gaming werewolf or whatever.
I'm
But
just
we don't have
anything.
anybody
Yeah,
watching right
Wolf
now anyway.
Gamer,
Just
Werewolf.
me and you. You know, I'll be lucky if we get 5 people watch this later because we haven't done a podcast in a few weeks because of my poor health and some other stuff. So, but we're back live now. This is actually episode like 15, I believe, total, if you count the couple of trial ones that I did that are still sitting on my page. So, and they're on there. So I'll go ahead and count them and say this is the 15th episode. But yeah, cool. Glad to be back, man.
Awesome.
Glad to have you on here. We were just
Yeah,
talking
thank
about
you.
The overheating ps5s. That it's a thing. People get over it. And I'm still going to buy one. I told you I probably wasn't getting one, but eventually I will. But I'm hoping Sony does that stealth fix where they pick up the phone and call the factory and have a little, and they'll never admit to it. And no one will ever know. It'll just be whatever model number from them.
No, they still never officially admitted to the laser problem of the very first PlayStation. That's the problem I had. We had to turn it upside down for it to play right.
You know what? Those carried through even on PS2s. They were the cheapest lasers.
I know. The laser on that
got them from some Chinese factory. They were, they were awful. And it was so amazing, too, because Sega went the exact opposite. Paid good money for the ones they put in the Saturns. And my God, those Saturns are like fucking tanks. Still around to this day, and they don't ever die. And even when they went to the Dreamcast, they went to a much cheaper laser and of course they had to because it was that GD-ROM crap that was weird.
Yeah, that GD-ROM thing.
Yeah, and it changed the laser so it wasn't as high quality as the one that they had in the Saturns. But I understood why they did it. It wasn't so much that it was cheaper; it was just different. But it turned out to be not as high quality, put it that way, or as long lasting. I don't know about the quality. I shouldn't say it because of the quality. I don't really know why the ones in the Dreamcast weren't as high as quality as the Saturn. I just know that they were not.
Well, unfortunate because all my Sega CD, my Saturn, and my Dreamcast all still work great, and I still play them. So
yeah. I've got a Dreamcast that still works, but to be honest, I want to gut it and put one of those hard drives in it. I've just not gotten around to doing it. And they actually sell one model that you can either slap into the Dreamcast or you can slap it into a Saturn. It's really weird. And it'll have and you can download all the ROMs and play all the games for it instead of burning the games. But I've got 2 Saturns. They both work great. And I only got 1 Dreamcast though. And actually it still works fine. It still reads the disc. But and I've got 5 or 6 PS1s and PS2s that all have dead lasers in them. Every one. But now I do have a couple of working ones. I have that last model of the PS1 that looked like just a music CD flip open top.
Yeah, little guy. Yeah, PS-ONE. Yeah, the little one.
And one of them was even hacked or whatever you want to call it. It'll play anything and everything. I think the other one doesn't know. The other one will only play official discs. But I've got those 2, and I've actually got a day one PS1 that actually works, but it's actually had the laser changed out of it. And I've got multiple PS2s, and none of them fuckers work. Actually, I take that back. I have one PS2, the real super slim model that came out late in its life. I bought it long after the PS3 had been out, but we were waiting we had just returned from Korea, and our stuff was still in shipment coming back to the States. Because they put that stuff up by boat, and of course you fly when you come back, and so we just we picked up a PS2 and a few games just to have something to play until all our stuff got there. But and that one still works, but it never got a lot of play out of it. But I don't know where that one's at. It's in a box somewhere, I'm sure. I don't know where half my stuff's at right now because I just moved to a new apartment. Nice 3-bedroom luxury apartment, but crap, I don't know where anything's at.
Yeah, I've moved a few times myself in my life, so I know that feeling. Things get lost in limbo.
Yeah, the only cool thing about it was I'm finally getting around. I mean, we've been in here weeks, and I hadn't got stuff put away like I should have. But I had a stroke. I've told people they know, and so I just finally
Glad you're doing
started.
well, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I finally started getting some stuff put away, and going through those boxes with all these old consoles. It's like, holy shit! It was like the two little of those PS1s I was talking about, the tiny one. I'm like, I didn't know.
Yes.
I didn't know I had two of them, but when I was unboxing, and I'm like, I'm standing there holding them both, and I'm like, holy shit! I got two of these fuckers. How cool is that? and I found two brand new, still in their box, PS2 controllers, the original Dual Shocks. The DualShock 2. They're brand spanking new in their box, and the hard drive thing. Or it's not really the hard drive. It's the module thing for the PS2, so you can hook it up to the internet. But it's also how you hook a hard drive up to it through that same thing. But anyway, I've got one of those still new in the box because I was going to mod a PS2 and make sure to get a hard drive in it, and it was one of those projects that eventually I just I stopped because my full size PS2 working ones were not working because of their lasers, and I'm like, nah, shit. Now I got to order lasers for them, and I will. Not a big deal. And in fact, I've got a couple somewhere. I just don't know where those are at. They're still in a little box that came in because I ordered them from China. But a reputable place that does real good on stuff like that. I ordered a replacement laser for a Neo Geo CD. I had to replace the laser in it, and actually I failed at that miserably. It had a bad laser in it, and I took it out and I put a brand new one in it, and I never could get it lined up right. So I just left it the way it was. And one of these days I'll get around and get back in there and mess with it. But you have to, once you mess those lasers, you have to put them back in exactly correct, and they got to be on the correct angle or whatever. I don't know, but anyway, I don't need those Neo Geo CD games. I mean, it's cool to have, but at the same time, I've got 100 other ways to play Neo Geo stuff, including the big white controller that's a joystick, but it's shaped like a controller that they released last year. I love that thing because it not only plays Neo Geo games. I got it hacked finally. It took a little bit of effort, but I got it playing Capcom CPS 1 and 2 games. Holy shit, nice. It is badass to be playing like the Street Fighter Alpha and Street Fighter Alpha 3 or 2 or whatever, all the weird, where they were coming out with the new arcade machines every 6 months back in the day, and then there would be a home release for it, and it wouldn't be a true upgrade. They were afraid not to call it Street Fighter 2, so it kept just being weird stuff. But those games are amazing.
Oh, I love the little Capcom games. I absolutely swear by them. Some of them, especially like X-Men and Street Fighter.
At the same time, Capcom released, or Neo Geo released this product that looks like a controller. Capcom released their version of the product that just says Capcom.
It literally says Capcom. Yep.
Yeah. I wanted one so bad, but it was just too damn expensive. I'm like, it's just emulation, and they don't give you enough games in it, and it looks stupid. Although it kind of looked cool too. I don't know. I never did buy one. I don't know if I can still get one.
Yeah, I didn't get it. It was too much money, and I'd rather spend the money on other things like food.
Luckily, the Neo Geo one looks badass, and it plays all the Capcom games, and it plays all old console games too. You can actually play, all Super Nintendo and Genesis games on
That's cool.
Anything that would work with a joystick pretty well works really well on it. So, but yeah, that's another project. I've got to go through a crap ton of console games and just delete the ones off that don't really translate good to playing on a joystick. because some games are meant to be played on a pad. They just are.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
don't need a big ass joystick and 6 buttons. But we'll see. That, like I said, that's a project to go through and get those off. Right now, I don't play hardly any of those. I just play arcade games on it, and that were meant to be using a stick.
Right. So how you enjoying the Xbox?
Oh, much. Love it. But yeah, it's what I told people 6 months ago and a year ago and a month ago before these things drop. It's the same for the PS5. People need to back them expectations down. Okay. 4K is 4K, people. The Xbox One X already cracked that nut. Okay. The PS4 Pro didn't, but the fucking Xbox One X gave you 4K. It just didn't give you the silky smooth play with the higher frame rates and all that. But it was already doing an amazing job. And even the PS4 Pro, actually even the PS4, via the upscaling and the different techniques that they were already using, games looked amazing. So you're not going to see a visual difference. Hell, to be honest, I can't much tell the difference between 360 and PS3 games. They're all meant for HD, whether they were originally made at 720p or 900p or 1080p. They're getting upscaled to whatever TV you're using anyway. So this depends on how good your TV upscales, or the console that you're using, how good does it upscale, which the Xbox One X and now the Series X both have had great upscalers in them. So yeah, so now the big thing now is the frame rates, and that's coming along great. A lot of the ponies are wanting to bitch and say, oh, and my God, Digital Foundry's like buying into that shit and making people go crazy with this has more blades of grass. They're pulling that same shit they did back in 2013. I got some respect for those guys, but I don't have a ton of respect because they try to create controversy but I get it. They make money. They got to have hits. And I'm not saying
that and the fact that all they're doing is just counting pixels and looking at things. I mean, they're just calling it the way it is. But I know what you mean. It can be a bit of a gaslighting at its worst. Because you see that you're like,
patch, and now the Xbox version looks better. They've not come out and said that. In fact, they did with Linneman did some tweets saying, "Well, don't play the game anyway." Blah blah blah. I was like, wait a minute, motherfucker. You were the one saying that the Xbox version sucked, and then they did a patch for it. Now it's the better version, and you won't come out and admit it. He kind of deserves it when people attack him. I'm sorry. And you know what? Sometimes cyberbullying is not a bad thing. Come on. The guy was being an asshole. So if guys come after him, that's on him. I'm sorry if he has and he can't handle it and he curls up into his turtle shell. Get over it. Be an adult. If you say the shit, own it. Own it, John Linnerman. I don't care. I mean,
he doesn't.
Right, those versions, there was some fucked up shit going on. The Xbox is way more powerful, and yet it was only 3 games, by the way. You realize that, right? It was 3 fucking games. It's all it's been compared head to head. But PlayStation guys was acting like every game. No, all the back compat shit. If it was the same game that was back compat on both systems, looked way better on the Xbox. It was just those really big open world games by Ubisoft and the one by the racing game, the Dirt developers, that didn't take full effect of some of the tools of Microsoft and all that and yada yada. But they went back and patched them, and those games now, both Dirt 5 looks and plays better on the Xbox now, as do the big one,
Valhalla.
Yeah, Valhalla.
Yeah.
Now the other one,
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Never actually, now the other game, the other Ubisoft game, it didn't look better on the PlayStation, though people were saying that, but that was not one of the games that they never even did a head-to-head on it. Or if they did, they didn't make a big deal about it because I think they were the same or something. And both of them were having the save issues. So
you're talking about Watch Dogs, I'm assuming?
Yeah. and Watch Dogs was not an issue because it didn't look better on the PlayStation. But so we'll see. I think going forward, everything will look better on the Xbox because it's a little bit more powerful. But
I think ultimately you're right.
It's not going to make that big a difference either system because once you say, I mean, again, I just said it a few minutes ago, 4K is 4K, man. It's not. This can't look any more crisp or better. You can have better AI, and you can have a game that has better graphics because they've got more layers of things and more density. So it could, you can do that. But as far as the resolution is, it is what it is. It can't go any higher. And it can only be as high as what your TV anyway will display. So that always cracks me up when people talk about 8K. I'm sorry, the whole downsampling thing is bullshit. I mean, even Microsoft kind of put that shit out there with the Xbox One X. Well, if you use it on a 1080p set, it'll downsample and look better. No, actually, it doesn't. Native resolution always looks the best, but they've gotten so good at upsampling now. I'll be honest, it's hard to tell the difference. So I don't care when they do that. The resolution can be going up and down, and I can't tell the difference. I don't know until the day comes along where I'm playing a game and the resolution drops so low that I'm like, holy shit, the resolution just dropped out of it. Then I'll be pissed and I won't play that game anymore. I've never had that happen.
I don't think you will.
Netflix and have or watching something streaming and have the resolution drop. It's still a factor these days.
Here's my take. And this is all comparisons aside. Just basically just because I have, the Xbox, I have the PS5. So, but like for example, Spider-Man, either the remastered or Miles Morales. There's two modes. There's the resolution mode, which of course runs at 4K and it has the ray tracing. Okay, and then there's a performance mode, which turns off the ray tracing and lowers the resolution to like it's a dynamic 4K. It ranges. I think it bottoms out at 1440p. To my eyes, on my TV, now granted, I don't have an 80-inch television, but I have a fairly sizable 50-something inch television, 55 actually. I can't see it. I can't really see the difference. I mean, in performance mode, I see like the absence of ray tracing. That's one thing. But strictly on a resolution level, to me, I'm perfectly fine with the Lock 60 that they run at supposedly a lower resolution. It is running at a higher resolution than the original, and that's true with the Xbox games too. The Xbox One games, One X, some of them ran at 4K, which was great. Some of them couldn't hit 4K if you wanted the performance. They ended up at 1440. Heck, if I could see it, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
because like you said, the upscaler is excellent. We're not talking about like 680p or 640p, whatever it was, all the way up to 4K. We're not. That's obvious, but even 1080p is still pretty good in most televisions. I mean, people.
Even OG Xbox and a day one PS4 hooked up to a 1080p TV, that they look amazing. I can't tell anything.
Oh yeah,
but now there is a difference if you hook them to a 4K set. That's kind of a big jump. If a game's at like 720p and now your TV is having to upscale it, well, the Xbox always upscaled it, sent out a 4K signal, but it wasn't really 4K. It was just upscaled. And again, right. I've always been a big guy on native resolution being the best way to go, but no, not anymore. They've got so many techniques now so that the resolution, that's a dead horse. No matter what anybody says, whether you're a PlayStation guy, an Xbox guy, it doesn't matter. It's the resolution, dude. Everything looks amazing. And when I'm saying, dude, I'm not meaning you. I'm talking to anybody out there in the audience.
I know what you meant.
At some point, they need to just get over that. Now, there's going to be games. The big difference in these two consoles is who's going to hold the frame rates the best. That's going to be their one measuring stick, I guess, that matters. Load times are going to be basically the same. You're going to get some things that were made natively for the ps5 that'll load faster. It just will, because it's got a faster SSD in it. Microsoft had extra tools and things and little tricks that developers can use that keeps the Xbox as fast. But again, that's not, it's when the game gets built ground up for that SSD that's in the PS5, it'll be special. It'll be just smoking. But that game won't be on that. You'll never know the difference. Yeah, they won't. For a multi-plat, they're going to build it to the spec that they, not to the Sony SSD spec. They're going to build it to I don't know what spec they build that shit to. Whatever I guess they think is going to be in the PCs eventually.
Likely,
so maybe they'll start putting that same SSD that's in the PlayStation in PCs. I don't know, because no one knows, because Sony's not fucking picked any and said this is what you can use in it yet. So we don't know.
Yeah, no, they haven't. There's a couple that it might be coming out, but we won't see anything till 2021, which is fine. I mean, personally, like I said, I can vouch for Spider-Man, how fast it loads. I'm literally like from the title screen, it just takes seconds. Even the fast travel, it just
that's why all the Xbox games are too now. So I mean, I think that's.
Oh, I'm not. Like yeah, said, no doubt.
If they're going to start saying one game loads in 3.5 seconds and another game loads in 1.5 seconds, that's just stupid. But I think
that doesn't matter.
Digital Foundry will try that crap, but I don't think any of that really matters.
Honestly, a few seconds doesn't matter. Now, if it's like 30 seconds versus 1 second, different story, but I don't think you'll ever see that. The Xbox is plenty fast. It's impressive. The SSDs are just the way to go. I'm glad they want that route. Just after that initial install, you're just flying on either system. I love it. That to me, that's the real next gen benefit. More than ray tracing, more than the 4K, which has already been in there. The SSD is where it's at.
Yeah, but I would have liked to see Sony and Microsoft, as big ass companies, go to some manufacturer and say, look, they're going to sell 100 million of these for the PlayStation. We're going to sell 75 million of these for the Xbox. So that's 175 million fucking SSDs. So this is the price point that you can sell it at. And we're ordering 175 million of them. And deal with it. You're going to have to sell them at this price point. And then you could buy an external one that doesn't go inside the fucking machine. I don't know what Sony was thinking about with that crap.
Well, that's what they've been doing all along. So
yeah, but why? It's silly. You got to you've got your external way of hooking shit up. USB drive. So just go with that. Now Microsoft, on the other hand, why in the fuck did they go for a that plug and play? Yeah, I don't get that either. Why not just have just exactly shaped like the ones that are currently out there available? And you'll just have a USB cord plug into that little square brick that plugs into the back of your console. Why did you have? And they'll still have those. I believe that. But I don't know.
Right. I think a lot of it too is as good as USB 3.0 is, it's still not a true fast throughput as a direct, SSD is what they're using. That discrepancy might cause issues, especially if they're loading on the fly, like, for example, the open world games. Again, speculation. I don't know this for sure. But from my knowledge of how USB 3.0 works and how fast these SSD drives can get, I think there is just enough of a discrepancy of the speed, on the communication and plus the cable quality. I mean, honestly, if you're trying to get the most out of it,
what's that?
They're pretty standardized.
What's that one? that new way of hooking shit up that PCs have? It's not even new, but it's not ever been on a console. I think Apple's the one that pushed it.
Firewire? Not Firewire. Is it Firewire?
No,
I think I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? There's an insanely fast way that you can hook shit up, and then they should have went with that. I don't know. It seems stupid to me to And I love the size and that little thing plugging it in, but 1 terabyte's not enough. And I guess if they get 2 or 3 different companies making it in that size, what I'm hoping somebody does is it just has a regular fucking hard or SSD that fits in a regular hard drive box and uses the connector port on the back that you plug that thing into. Your wire will come out of your drive and it'll have something that plugs into that thing in the back of the Xbox. And that way you don't just have to have that fucking, you're trapped to that 1 terabyte. And now all these people that bought 1 terabyte, here's my thing. I stack my hard drives. How in the fuck can you stack that thing? So you got 1 terabyte internally, great.
Yeah.
Then you got a 2nd terabyte. That's great too. That's not fucking enough. All right, I've got 15 terabytes right now hooked up. And I'm not one of those guys. I don't think it's okay to say, oh, it only takes a minute and a half to move the game. That's a minute and a half. I don't got to fucking sit and wait. I like my games on my hard drive. Okay, I don't buy stuff physical anymore, but I physically own that game on my hard drive. Once I've downloaded it, I have it somewhere. It makes me, it's how I got over the fact that I was buying shit digitally. And that game lives on that hard drive. As long as that hard drive's still working, I'm okay. If the hard drive dies, I might be able to re-download it onto another hard drive from the cloud if Microsoft's still doing that. But who knows? 10 years from now, they may stop. But the games that I have on my hard drives will still work and play for a while until that drive dies. But anyway, it's a mental thing. It's how I got over buying digitally. It's like, well, it's on my hard drive. I own it. I don't need a fucking disc. And all them people that think 10 years from now, too, by the way, when both Sony and Microsoft are no longer supporting games, your disc fucking work either. Come on, people. You think the entire game is on that disc? That's how they stopped piracy. You just think it's all on there. And I know there are a lot of games it is. I know.
Yeah, those huge day one up. Yeah, those huge day one updates say otherwise. Yeah,
you'll never get that update once they stop.
They're not.
But now they are games that will work because I know for a fact, even Xbox, there were times my internet was out and I still had games that worked. It ain't many on the Xbox, to be honest. There were a few. I like, okay, let's see if this one works. No, goddamn it. Here's another one. Oh, now that one works. And there's more of that on the PlayStation side, on the PS4. A lot of theirs games work. But not the big third-party, big open-world games. None of those fucking will work, I'll guarantee you. If they're no longer supporting it, you'll put that disc in and there's going to be something missing. I'm just telling you.
No, I hear you. I'm laughing because it's true. It's EA especially, like you said. It's like I was playing Need for Speed.
I gotta have my games physical because I know 10 years from now or 20 years from now I'll be able to play it. No, 20 years from now you'll be able to slap in that cartridge in a NES or Super NES or a Genesis or an N64, and those will fucking work if your console, your clone console works. That is. But these ones that use these discs, I'm just telling you, if it don't read it, if you got to download that to your fucking hard drive, they put shit intentionally that gets downloaded, and you won't get that download anymore. It's a crying shame. But yeah, I've never been a big fan of them not reading these games from the disc drives. That's why the 360 and the PS3, those games actually played off of the disc. They didn't play off the hard drives on those consoles. That was the end of an era right there.
Right.
Now you have to download.
Oh, yeah.
But that's how they defeated piracy on these systems. I mean, hell, they hacked the PS4 8 or 9 times throughout its life, but it didn't matter. Because you have to get all these downloads every time you put a fucking game in. And it was real easy for Sony just to change like one thing. And then all them people that had hacked systems, they just wouldn't play shit anymore.
I know. That's supposedly one of the things that killed the Dreamcast too, because it was so easy to hack, apparently. And so all the companies just keep fighting against it.
Yeah, but you didn't actually have to hack the Dreamcast. Games would just play. There was nothing you had to do internally. You didn't have to put
Play.
any
Yeah, it's
jumper
true.
wires or anything. That was their fault for going with a shitty system. Sega was just they were just fucking stupid. I'm sorry. They went with a GD-ROM thinking that was going to stop piracy, and it made piracy easier. People realized right off the bat, like, holy shit, you just burn this thing and it fucking works. Sega thought that by going GD-ROM, people would not have the burners that would do it. And it took them all of like 3 minutes to figure out, oh, well, if we just, when you're burning it, use this and it'll burn it correctly and it'll play. But, yeah. Whatever. Now they've actually conquered that. Fucking Microsoft. You know, I'm an Xbox guy, but I'm not a Microsoft guy. They ruined shit for pirates. Holy crap. And that and how big games are too.
Yeah, it's brutal.
That's why I love the.
Oh, they're getting bigger and bigger. I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, by the
what
even
is,
by the PS, even
Call
by
of
the
Duty up to now?
PS2.
120 gigs.
Yeah, even by the PS2, I would not burn games anymore. I'm like, fuck, that's horrible. It takes forever to download that shit. If there's any mistakes, you got a disc that's just into the garbage. I just said no. Now you can put all those games on a fucking hard drive. It's great. Yeah, fuck you, Sony. Your anti-piracy shit don't work on the PS2. It don't work for the PS3 either. You can get hard drives full of games for that now too. Hell, Sony couldn't even emulate the PS3 on the PS4. It was actually they could have, they just didn't want to. Which I don't get it because they've been hacked PS3s forever. Hacked Xbox 360s forever too. Although you just can't. Again, you can't go online. Though that's how Microsoft really defeated piracy. Was by you go online, they recognize your console has been. Yeah, but and I've got one of those, but I was always smart enough never to play it online. Hell, I've got a day one OG Xbox that's hacked. Now I don't have one that's internally hacked anymore. Now I just use the soft modding technique they call it. But I've got one with a hard drive, so it's got every OG Xbox game on it, and it's got emulators for other consoles on it. But I don't use it for none of that. Hell, I don't even play Xbox games on it because I'm afraid I put too big of a hard drive on it. I'm afraid it'll die. So I just kind of stopped using it because I don't want it. I'm just paranoid that I'm going to kill that drive. They recommend, I think, no more than 2 terabyte or something. I can't remember now. So you need two of them to get all the games. But I got stubborn and put like one big, I think 5 or 6 terabyte hard drive in it, and it's not meant for that. I think it's because it uses the old style. Well, it uses the old style hard drives that nothing uses anymore.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Where they went from SATA from whatever it was before that.
Yeah,
or was it SATA that's whatever they use now?
To SATA 2.
Yeah. And anyway, so the OG Xbox used the old thing, and so you really wasn't. It was never meant to more than a certain size could be run on it. But there's tricks around it, and guys know how to do it because I had it done. I couldn't do it myself, but I had it done to mine. I just sent a guy a hard drive. I paid for it, sent it to him, and he did something, and of course he put all the games on it for me, so I didn't have to do full with any of that. And then he mailed it back to me at a cost. So fuck you, Microsoft. I got all those games pirated. Yeah. And I'm saying it out loud over the internet. And you still can't do nothing about it because I don't hook that fucker up to the internet. You can't brick it. You can't do anything. I dare you to come to my door. I have guns. But no, I'm just being silly now. That's a dead console. A dead console.
Don't want to mess with you.
Right in the world to fucking hack and steal games for. Although now if they resell shit, maybe you don't anymore. You know, because they do sell them same games now. They sell 20 of them, which ain't very many, Microsoft, by the way. It still pisses me off. They made such a big deal about having OG Xbox games, and they only did like 20 of them or 30. I don't know the number. It's very little. It's pretty good for the 360. There's about 500 of the 1,800 games that was on the 360. About 500-600 of them are available on the Xbox One. But all Xbox One games are available for the Xbox Series, so X and S, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, with the exception
I don't
of
let Xbox
course,
off the hook. I'm an Xbox guy,
Kinect
but I don't let them off the hook for that. I don't consider that to be a great solution for your back compat. I always thought emulation was shitty because it just lets you, if you have the game, I'll give them this. They're like, well, people already own the game. We'll let them play it. So you put that disc in and it'll just download your game. But yeah, it's not all of them. And I don't know. I love how the PS3 did it. They actually put a real, has a real PS2 inside of it, right? And then PS1's emulation. Or they'll have it backwards. There's a real PS1 in there and it emulates PS2. I don't know. But it plays 3 generations of games if you have that original George Foreman grill shaped.
Yeah, the PS3 fat. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has like 18 USB ports in it. It's crazy. It's got a door and you open it. It's like, holy fuck, why did they put all these? Way more than you'd ever need.
Yeah. Yeah, like SD card reader, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they took all that shit out later when they realized their Xbox was kicking their ass. They had to save money. But I've got one of those and it's pretty cool. It works really well, except the HDMI doesn't work on it, which was a known problem with PlayStation 3s. A lot of them had bad HDMIs. But I never got it fixed and don't care because I was using component anyway. And
yeah, didn't really run it like
HDTV. Kind of weird, but I use component cables on the old HD TV. But yeah, and it looks great. So I'm like, no, fuck it. I'm not even gonna worry about getting the HDMI fixed on it. And now I don't know that I could. And I guess I searched the internet hard enough I could find somebody who could probably fix that, but I'd be paranoid just to box that fucker up and send it off. Somebody'd steal it, and those are hard to get. The ones that
those are high value items.
Yeah, the OG Day 1 ones. If I ever find a local place that does stuff like that, I might let them fix it. But I don't. Like I said, I don't care. And the newer 360 I got, the black one, I use HDMI with it, but my day 1 360, which still works, I actually used the component because it didn't have an HDMI port on it. That day 1 360, there was no HDMI when that came out. Well, there was.
That's right. They weren't. They were.
Well, they didn't put it on there, but they were already TVs when that dropped. By the way, they were some TVs that cost like $20,000 back in the day that had HDMI. The Xbox didn't. Yeah, they didn't fool with putting that on there. It wasn't until one of their updates down the line that they added HDMI.
Right.
Sony had that extra year and realized, we better put this fucker on here. But it was a rush job, and they didn't do a good job of it because most of those day 1 PlayStation 3s, the HDMI don't work on them. Well, mine don't work. I shouldn't say most, although I've read that most of them don't work now. I don't know how true that is.
I admit I didn't get it the day 1, so I don't have a day 1 PS3, so I can't speak for it myself.
But yeah. But let's get back to these current ones. I'm pretty happy. You happy with your PlayStation 5?
Yeah, I mean,
now when they had to bust that big giant ass hole in your house to get it in, was it hard to get that packed back up? Did they use like a big wrecking ball?
Thankfully, no. No, I had a little
had the door wide.
Pre-plan is a word. Yeah, I had the door widened. I had an elevator put in, like a lift and everything. And no, I'm kidding. I actually created some space in my entertainment center. Just I measured it, and I have enough to give it plenty of air, so I'm have it upright. And where it is actually not bad for me. It actually is kind of not concealed, but it's low to the floor and in a cool space. Like I purposely designed my entertainment center, redesigned it just so I can have the PS5 and it's cool because knowing that it would run hot, just to give it as long as I can until hopefully the Slim comes out or whatever, or Shadow drop of a
You know
better
what?
system.
Just to troll
But
some PS5 people that I fuck with on Twitter, I've put out some really, really negative little statements on Twitter and tweeted it out about how ugly the PS5 is. But in all honesty, I like big 60 looking, 60-ish, from that decade, looking garish. Garish? Am I saying that right?
garish, yeah.
Yeah, tacky. I like crap like that, and that's what that thing looks like. It absolutely looks like something out
Yeah,
of
it
the
does.
1960s, and it's kind of cool. It would not bother me to have that sitting beside my TV. And luckily, I've got a cheap ass stand that's a
Yep.
cube. It's got
1 second.
2, 4, 6, 8 cubes in it.
Did I lose you? Oh.
That no, I'm here. But yeah,
Okay.
it's got like 8 cubes, and I think they're 12 by 12 cubes. I'm not even sure. But it's like, and I just got those from Walmart, but they look like the ones that got made famous from oh crap, what's the furniture store from Denmark?
Oh,
Worldwide now.
dear God. I know it. I don't know
I
why
don't
I
have
can't think
one
of
here
it either.
locally anymore. I had one out in California when I lived there, but here in Knoxville, Tennessee, we don't have one. But anyway, they sell
IKEA?
cubes like this. Yeah, it looks
Okay.
like IKEA sells these kind of cubes, and it's pretty funny because there's one that's got 4 cubes in it, and the top's really thick. It's about an inch thick, and the bottom's like an inch thick, and the sides. But then the middle part of the cube walls and are thinner. The outer thing is what's really thick. And I think it's just like styrofoam inside of them with um, laminate, whatever. I don't know, but they look
It's
really
probably
nice.
particle board. Yeah.
Yeah,
Particle board
and
is
I've
most
got
common.
I set big, heavy fucking tube TVs on them, and that's what I originally bought a couple of them for. And I'm like, you know what? I seen they had a bigger one there, and I'm like, wow, if I bought that one, I could lay it on its side and put a regular, pretty big ass modern television on it, that has feet, and so I've got a 55-inch 4K set that I set on that, and inside one of those cubes, the Series X fits really well and has a very good clearance up top, and of course to the right and left you have a mile worth of clearance. But there's plenty of room to set the hard drives beside of it, and so it looks really good in there. But I don't think the PS5 will sit in one of those cubes. I think it's too tall. Like I already know what it is. I mean, even the Pro I couldn't set up
My
right.
PS.
I had to lay the PS4 Pro flat in it.
Oh yeah. If you didn't set up the Pro, yeah, it's. I can tell you, it's a good. It clears the PS4 Pro by a good 3.
But I've got
4
enough
inches
room
at
to the right
least, in
or
terms of
to the
height,
left of the
depending on where you put it.
television.
So yeah, if you couldn't fit the PS4 Pro,
Yeah, it had to lay down
yeah.
flat. There's no way I'm putting that console flat in a cube like that. It wouldn't get enough air.
Um,
So it'll set upright vertically, which is how it should be set anyway, I think. I mean, they designed it that way anyway. So, and I've got more than enough space. And my television's a Samsung that it's got one of those little boxes that everything plugs into the box. Then you got one wire that comes out of that box that looks to the TV. And that sets to the right side of the TV anyway. So there's plenty of room for the PS5 there or on the other side. And I've got a sound bar up there. And then underneath the TV, I've got a matching Samsung Blu-ray player or 4K player. Then, of course, the Xbox is also a 4K player. So was the One. But yeah, I just got a little cheapy. I actually have an LG soundbar instead of a Samsung one, Samsung has some badass sound bars, but I always just thought they were too expensive for, you know. I'm not gonna say for the quality because they're pretty high quality now. I even bought one at one point, but I didn't like how it used instead of having optical, it the only way you could hook it up was via HDMI. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Now I gotta send my everything through the fucking sound bar. That just something to me that didn't feel right. I'm like, no. I like shit going to the receiver. I get that, and then one HDMI receiver to your TV, but I'm not sending shit to a sound bar. And I turned out to be correct, at least on this particular model. I had some audio issues, and so I just returned it, went back to using the LG one that I had.
Yeah, I'm lucky that my TV does. So most devices now, unfortunately, are omitting the optical outs. So ps5 included. I don't know if I think the Xbox still has an optical out, correct? This the One X.
I don't know because I use my HDMI goes out of my Xbox to that little connector box in the back. And then that connector box goes to the TV, and then I go optical out of my TV to the optical in of my soundbar.
Okay, all right. So that's what I do too now.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful my TV actually passes through the Dolby digital and the DTS signals. So it's nice because I can get through the optical. I can still get the DTS. The only thing I don't have yet is Atmos. So that's going to be down the line.
Yeah, I've held off on that. But even the soundbar, that one I was telling you about that I ended up sending back, it had the top, the speakers that shot upward to bounce off your ceiling.
Yeah,
it was pretty amazing. But and it came with a couple of rear speakers that also had a speaker mounted on top that was meant to point straight up. But it just I didn't like how it was all set up, and I had some audio dropouts using it. I guess because it was using HDMI. I don't know. I've not heard too many other people complain about that, so I might have just had a bad one. I don't know. I just sent it back, and plus it was so thick it really eclipsed the bottom of my TV, and that didn't really work either. I've got this little tiny thin LG soundbar that it's pretty decent sound, and I've got some energy speakers. They're pretty tiny that I can hook to a receiver and actually have a full 7.2 and the 0.2 meaning 2 subwoofers. That would be pretty badass. But I'm in an apartment now and I don't want to piss off my neighbors. I mean, I've got big ass dual subwoofers in my living room too, and I'm not even hooked them up yet. I just decided.
Yeah, I'm in an apartment as well, so I have to
listen to loud stuff. I just use my headphones and I've got the wireless ones that are really good, pretty high quality, so I don't mind that at all. But even late at night, the soundbar, I sat so close to this 4K TV that even in the middle of the night, it's more than loud enough for what I need. But now, eventually, in my living room, I'll have to hook the subs up in my decent receiver.
Yeah, I just have this old 5.1 surround sound that works perfectly for me. What I use it for. Everything sounds great.
Mine is a 7.1 in the living room, but or 7.2 because I got the dual subs. But the stuff I'm using with the sound bar in here, I've got speakers and a receiver for it that I just haven't used yet. Well, I used it way back in the day, but the receiver I got, even though it is 7.1, and it's THX certified, and it's a Kenwood, but it didn't have HDMI, is why I stopped using it. But then I realized that, you know what, I could use these little energy speakers with it in here, and it doesn't need HDMI because it has an optical in, and I could just do it like I'm doing the soundbar, run the sound out of the TV to that receiver, and then all the speakers are hooked to it. So it does have optical in. So I'm like, yeah, I can hook that thing up and use it. But I don't know if I will because I'm pretty happy with the soundbar I got. I mean, you got a soundbar and a subwoofer. It's pretty badass.
And it is. Yeah, that's what I have in my bedroom.
Even back in the day, when they first went to surround sound, or not when they first went to it, when they switched from just surround sound to the whole discrete 5.1, where the rear speakers needed to now be full range. Because back in the day, those speakers wasn't full range on any surround setup. They didn't have any bass in them, and they didn't need it. And to this day, they still don't need it, by the way. But you can use full. I don't know. Soundtracks now can have deep bass in the surrounds, but it's kind of silly. But anyway, that's not the point that I was getting at. I can use with the setup. Back then, instead of using the 5 point when I went to the 5.1, I found that the surrounds sometimes were distracting anyway when they had stuff in movies. And I just stopped using them for a while. And I was just using the receiver back then that I had a 3.1 that I could set it to. And you just get the right, left, and center channel in your subwoofer. And I must have went 3 or 4 years where I just used that setting. And I didn't even give a shit about not having the surrounds. But eventually, they kept getting better and better about putting, the information that was going to the surrounds. So finally, it got to the point where I was like, shit, I got to go back to having surround speakers. And I previously had a pair that were pretty good, but I bought all matching everything and for the fronts and the surrounds. Although the surrounds are still way smaller than I've got like 2 tower speakers and a matching center channel. And then I bought weird shaped surround speakers. But they match. They all the same. But those little energies I was talking about, I bought 2 full sets of those. They're, for a 5.1 setup. But I bought 2 sets, so I've got 10 of them. And so I've got extra ones to use for height speakers now that I can just lay on their back, and they'll be my Atmos speakers. And I don't know if I'll ever do that, but I can. They're tiny, but they sound so damn good. And I bought dual subs with them. That was a great company, and I think Clips bought them out a couple years ago. They're like Canadian Energy was their name. Excuse me, but I guess they go. They still sell stuff under the Energy brand, but they're Clips now. So yeah, I don't know if they still buy all their internal parts and stuff. However, they were doing it when they were their own company. They probably have to use Clips distributors and things. Of course, Clips makes high-end shit anyway. So
yeah, they do. They're really good.
Yeah, their home theater speakers are second to none. If you've got that set up. In fact, the ones in my living room are modeled after. They're not horn loaded like Clips, of course, but honestly, they're modeled after that Clips lineup. In fact, the set that came after the ones I bought look almost identical to Clips speakers. They went full up horn loaded and all that. The ones I got aren't horn loaded, which I didn't want horn loaded anyway. If I was going to do that, I would have just paid the extra money and bought the Clips. And I got these pretty cheap because the newer model was already out. And they, back then Amazon still had, actually kept stock of stuff. And they still had the previous models. And I'd had them for a couple years, so they had reduced the price down to nothing. So I got some pretty decent speakers at a good price. I got some Jamo or Yamo. I don't know how they're pronounced. It's spelled Jamo, but they're like Danish, so I think it's actually pronounced Yemo or Yamo. Or again, I don't know.
Yeah, something I can't.
I know they're not actually Jamo. If you call them Jamo, people make fun of you, even though because it's spelled with a J, but it's not pronounced that way. But they're pretty fucking high end, and I got them for almost nothing because they were like, because companies every 2 years, 3 years tops, if they have to rebrand themselves and put out a new model, whether it's good or better, that's debatable, but just to make stuff new and fresh, they do that. And so I was lucky enough to get these tower speakers for my standalone setup for music on the turntable. There was some Yamahas I always meant to buy like that I never did get. But I've got so many speaker setups. It was like, I can't buy these. I don't need them. Even though at one point they Amazon was selling them dirt cheap. I had a couple of. The reason I mentioned those Yamaha speakers is because I got Yamaha subs that I ended up pairing with those Jamo speakers. Although the Jamos don't really need subs, the bass goes pretty damn low. Besides the front firing woofers, they got like a big old 10 or 12-inch woofer on the side at the bottom. It's not power though. So it's not like a true subwoofer, but it gets you pretty deep bass out of the speakers. But I use that for my music only, although yeah, I don't know if I want to put those in my living room because I've got tower speakers already in my living room for my home theater setup. But I don't want that in my bedroom anymore because I'm an old man. I don't even sit in my damn bedroom and listen to music. I want it in my living room. So I'm going to move my turntable to the living room and just use the same tower speakers I got in here, which I've done before at my last place. And eventually I realized that those Jamos were actually better than the towers in the living room. At least for recorded music and stuff like that, which was fine. I just got to figure out what to do. I'll probably just go back to these ones in here because they're still really good. I'll just hang over those Yamos until I get a dedicated music listening room. But to be honest, I don't like dedicated rooms for anything.
Well, I want to get it eventually whenever I can afford one. But if I ever get my own place, I want to get a dedicated gaming room myself. I just want to just have my whole library up for display and everything.
Yeah, I get that. But once my children got old, all that kind of changed. Back then, I just wanted that same thing: dedicated gaming room, and I wanted a dedicated music room. And then eventually, I wanted. Then I realized, well, I don't need that anymore. But I wanted to. By then, I was going retro, and I'm like, well, I want a dedicated retro room with a bunch of tube televisions and all these old systems that I have, and just one room full of that stuff. But I found I just used one place. I got my little gaming hub with my 4K television, and this 55-inch, and I sat so close to it, it feels pretty big. I got a 70-inch in the living room, but it's only 1080p. This past Black Friday, man, I almost pulled the trigger multiple times on a new 85-inch 4K, but I really, really wanted that 77-inch LG, and because I wanted the OLED, but that CX model is a little darker than the C9 was, and LG did that on purpose to try to extend the life of the television, but it made it not quite as yeah. There was a couple other little issues with the CX. And then I've been reading a lot about next year. LG is coming out with a much reduced price OLED for the first time ever. They're gonna, because they've got so many competitors now that are selling cheaper OLEDs. And next year there's going to be even more. There's going to be more Chinese manufacturers pushing televisions that now have OLED. So LG's gonna they're gonna have a budget model, which so I was like, well, do I really want to pay $3,700 for that 77-inch sweet ass OLED, or wait a year and maybe pay $2,200 or something like that?
Yeah, I think you're better off waiting.
Yeah, that's what I think too, because I just, it really upset me too that you could go from 65. And I know there's a lot of people that have the C9 and the C10, and they got that 65-inch model, and they're like, that's big enough. That's all they need. No, that's bullshit. It's not. Okay, if you want that big movie theater feeling 65, you want bigger. But anyway, I don't want to. size shame them, but I've got a 55-inch for gaming, and I think that's plenty big enough for gaming. Yeah, but for movie watching, there's nothing that's too big. Period.
That's true.
And I almost bought. You can get it pretty damn cheap. 85-inch television now, 4K. And again, I was just talking about it earlier. 4K is fucking 4K. But to get them deep, inky blacks that the picture quality looks the best with and all that, yeah, they don't compare to OLEDs. And so I just thought, you know what? My one in the living room is still pretty good television. I'm going to wait till next year and look at the models that come out. And I know that for about $1,500, I can do it right now, and I'll be able to do it next year too. I can get an 85-inch television for the living room. My stand that I've got my 70-inch TV is big enough that it'll hold an 85-inch or bigger. So I'm like, yeah, I'll wait till next year. And when they do the CES, they debut all those televisions. Of course, some of them don't even come out till August, September, October is when they start showing up on store shelves, even though they get produced in like March, April, May, June when they come off the factories. But by the time they make it out to the Best Buys and the places that sell big ass televisions, it's usually a little bit later in the year. And so I just thought, you know what, I can still get that 85-inch next year for $1,500, and I'll wait and see, is somebody going to have an OLED in that size range? And if there is, I'll get one of those. If not, then I'll just get that 85 next year and not even worry about it. Because OLED ain't going to be around that much longer anyway, because all of them's got technology supposed to be. And it's not that it'll be better. It'll probably be as good, but or close to being as good. But it costs them so much to make those OLED panels. It is
I know.
a crazy, freaky process that they and it's like I'm not joking when I say this. It's almost like 1 out of 4 is good, and the other 3 go in the garbage. The panel.
It's
hard and it costs them
believe it or not, they don't have the same lifespan as a standard LCD.
Oh yeah, I know, it's much less.
And that's
why the C10s or the CX burn dimmer, much dimmer than the C9s did, because
right.
LG was like, fuck, people are going to be pissed when they find out this TV ain't going to last but about 8 years. You ain't getting 15 years out of it like you will an LCD.
No, that's true. That's very true. And I know that they have another, I don't remember the name of the technology. It's a step above like LED, LCD, but it's still a step below.
Yeah. There's like nano. OLED. There's nano, and then there's mini LED, and there's
apparently
coming.
It's a good trade-off. Like, it's not totally as clear as OLED, but at the same time, it's much better than your standard LED or LCDs.
Here's the thing, though. My 4K Samsung, and it wasn't even their highest end one. It was an 8 series, not a 9. But it had everything that the 9 series had, except it was not fully backlit. It was just the side lit, which basically means you got set in front of it. You don't get that.
Right.
No viewing angle on it. But I was only at 55-inch. I'm like, well, hell yeah, I'm going to be sitting right in front of it. It ain't big enough to set off to the side.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why do I want to pay? And the jump in price was stupid. And that's what I was saying earlier, and I got sidetracked. I sidetracked myself. One of the main reasons I didn't get that C10 this year or CX was because the jump from the 65-inch, which was about $1,800, which is not bad. You get an OLED, $1,800, 65-inch. But I've got a 70-inch TV in my living room now. I'm not going down in size. I'm sorry. I don't care how much better the picture quality is. Bigger is better. I'm just telling you, it is. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait. But the price jump was stupid. It was from, like $1,800 to $3,700. I'm like, that's 4 more inches, but fuck. That's a big price.
The price.
I think it was $500 difference on my Samsung from the I'm talking about same size, the 55-inch, but to go from the 8 series to the 9, and I'm like, I'm not paying $900 to get the full backlight, because I know what the difference is, and I know that is better. But as long as you're sitting right smack in front of it and you're watching it in a darkened room anyway, and that particular QLEDs are so bright anyway. It doesn't matter whether it's fully backlit. They're. I was more than happy. I understood the difference. You know, it was the same technology, but I understood the difference in the backlighting, and I'm like, I'm cool with this. I don't mind, trimming off $500. And it's been a great set. I love it, but what I'm getting at, it is not OLED, and it's never bothered me. When I watch stuff, I'm still amazed on how crap looks. And I know OLED does look better, though. And but prior to OLED, I had a plasma that looked better than anybody else's fucking LED.
Yeah, plasmas were amazing.
Yeah,
but they had
it's
burn-in
still
problems.
debatable whether OLED's better than plasma or not. If you go back to the last couple of years of plasma and you buy the high-end Panasonic ones, holy fuck, that was but again, that was only 1080p. They didn't do 4K plasma, but
right.
As far as, and they did do OLED with 1080p sets. A lot of people don't realize that. They were selling OLEDs back then, and it was not as good as plasma, but it got fucking close. And the second it got close, Panasonic said, we're out. We're not going to be able to compete because we have to keep our prices jacked up higher than everybody else. And we were able to do that when we were head and shoulders above everybody else's television. But now we're not, and it's just not, doesn't make sense for us to sell them. And they pulled out of the plasma market. Actually, they pulled out of the television market in the U.S. completely. They're still, although they still sell them internationally, the Panasonic model that came out this year was actually rated the #1 television, period, even more than the LG OLED. Of course, wow. The Panasonic ones, Panasonic's an OLED one too, but it's got a bunch of built-in picture enhancing features that they got film directors when they put this electronics in these TVs, telling them what the picture should look like and what they should do and this and that, and they put all that crap in there, and now it has a little symbol. And you got to pay money. Your TV has to meet these certain specs. And Panasonic got all of them on that model they're selling. Hopefully that'll start showing up on more models of television over the next couple of years. I didn't ever see it on any in the U.S. But Panasonic had it on theirs. I forget what it's called, but it's basically it's like directors approved. You get the true cinema. This is the best this thing fucking looks outside of a movie theater. Being,
right.
But yeah, that Panasonic one actually won the best picture, best television of the year. I think the one category that the OLED did beat it out on was gaming, and it was just a hair. And QLEDs are better for gaming than OLEDs anyway. It depends if you like that, because OLEDs have to be in a darker room. I mean, they'll play bright enough in a normally lit room, but you got like a big old, patio sliding glass door and stuff, and just blinds over them. And yeah, that's not good for OLED. It needs to be really dark. And QLEDs are bright. I mean, they're just crazy bright. So, and they've got OLED's finally got the latency down those last 2 years. You go back 3, 4, 5 years, them OLEDs did not, they were like 10 milliseconds or more delay than what the QLEDs had. But now they're all about the same. As long as you're buying the higher end models, they got very little latency.
Right. But yeah, no, I eventually I'm going to be a gamer
that cares about that, to be honest. If I can't notice it, I don't care. So I don't know what the latency is on my television. I don't care. I play games and I push a button, shit happens. I don't notice the difference. So
honestly, the only time you notice it is when you're really in the multiplayer. Then you need the higher frame rates, the lower latency, etc. But if you're playing most first player games, like one player games, most of them are designed around like a lot of these latencies for the television. So
yeah, that's all I play, man. I don't play.
Yeah, and even some of the Twitch games like Celeste or Hollow Knight is another one with these crazy platforming, things you got to do.
Yeah,
heck, even
I've played
Mario
a lot
Maker.
of Hollow Knight, and I've never had an issue, so I've probably got a pretty low latency.
Yeah, me either. Same here. So I can't say that my TV. I mean, my TV has a game mode anyway.
Yeah,
Whatever
mine
that.
does too, but I don't ever use it. I don't like.
Me either. It doesn't
I
matter
like.
to me because I can.
I go to all the settings and I adjust to myself to how I want stuff to look.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I make it look
Um,
most
but
theater like or movie theater like I can get.
exactly. But I don't have any issues with what when I push a button, the character reacts to my eyes instantly. So if there is a latency, it's imperceptible to me. I cannot see it, and that's all that matters to me. As long as I don't notice it, it's good enough. I don't have to be. I don't have to impress anybody. I don't need to hook up like some weird, device to my television to say, "Oh yes, it's instantly hitting the button and it's only 2 frames off and whatever."
Yeah, when they got wireless controllers to work, where when the first I can remember the early wireless controllers that were third party. I mean, literally, you could hit the button and go 1, 2, and then something would happen on screen. They
Right.
were awful, but once they got around that with the actually it was the Xbox, I think, cracked that nut first, even before Sony. And
Actually, who cracked it first, even before Xbox? Nintendo.
yeah,
Most people don't remember the Wavebird for the GameCube,
oh yeah,
but
I've got one.
that was amazing. I mean, it was just like it had no rumble, but it worked. It's
Yeah,
just
now I bought mine after the fact, that Wavebird for the
yeah.
yeah. I didn't
But
have
yeah,
it
then
back in the day, but I got
Xbox.
one later on.
But now they have the Bluetooth 4.2, and they can switch now. A lot of them have dual band where you can do
Yeah,
either the 2.3 or 2.5 gigahertz or the Bluetooth. And I have a controller like those 8-bit DO controllers that you can switch between the two, and
yeah,
I don't notice the difference, to be honest with you.
yeah.
It
I've got
works.
4 or 5 of those now, those 8-bit DOs.
Yeah.
I keep buying the minis, and then I always order extra controllers, whether they go to it or not. Some of
Oh, I
them
bought.
do. Some of them
Okay,
match the controllers, some don't.
here's a great example. So I still play on my Super Nintendo and Genesis, and I bought the 8-bit DO wireless for each one. And now, for years, I've been playing wired, and everyone swears by that. But I mean, I'm playing these Twitch games. I'm playing Mike Tyson's Punch Out, or the Super Punch Out, for example. That you have to be instant, especially in the later fights. I'm playing it with those controllers, and I don't see any. I don't feel
Oh yeah,
any delay on that, and that just speaks volumes to how good the technology got.
oh
Because
yeah,
those systems were all about instantaneous.
yeah. I don't even use those on my original consoles. I'm playing all my Super Nintendo and Genesis games on the minis, so everything's emulated, and I'm using a wireless controller, and everything works great.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I don't want to use my original. I have original hardware and love it, but I don't want it to die. So I'm almost afraid to use some of my original consoles. I hook them up every once in a while just to make sure they're still working. But
Oh, I the
I'm
same.
not going to play hardcore on them anymore. I bought clones that give me a Super Nintendo, a Genesis, and the NES all in one machine. By Hyperkin. I've got like 2 of those, and then I haven't bought the high end ones. They're like 150 each. I forget who makes that, but they make one for they make one for all those. And one for the NES, one for the Super Nintendo, and one for the Genesis. They're really nice, and I still want to get those, but it's like, damn, 150 console didn't even cost that much when it originally came out.
I know. They're ridiculously expensive.
And you can pay $80 and get one that plays all 3. And yeah, it's not as good as those, but it plays the games fine. I mean, I'm not even using it'll take the real cartridges, but I just got a EverDrive. I slap in there and every game plays and sounds fine. So I'm like, I don't care. It's a crappy clone console. It works fine. And trust me, and I tested it against the real ones to see.
And that's all that matters. I mean, if
Yeah.
if that works, then it works. There's
way back in the days, 7, 8 years ago, I did buy some of the Genesis ones at like dollar stores, and those were pretty bad. They had a bunch of built-in games, and
Oh,
they
the
were
at games ones. Yeah, those
yeah,
terrible.
those
They were
were
terrible.
pretty terrible. But I got sucked in a couple of different times buying those, and was like, holy crap, yeah, those don't play right, and they don't sound right, and just felt real cheap. And I'm like, well, if you started using that every day, it wouldn't last no time. But these Hyperkin ones I bought, they have 3 cartridge slots in them, and they have original controller ports for all the systems. But they also work with 8-bit DOS, and yeah, I'm like, I'll just use these. I'm not gonna write out my original consoles. Do you know what I'm talking about? The ones that are expensive. I can't remember who makes those. They make
I
like
know
a
exactly what you're talking
$20,000 NES one, from some kind of aluminum block or a gold block or something.
Yeah, I remember that. I can't, to be honest, I know exactly what you mean. I just can't think of
Yeah, they
what.
don't use. They use a different technology. They're not the original system on a chip stuff like those Hyperkin ones like I've got.
Right.
It uses the FPGA, but which is fine too. There's a whole bunch of retro systems now that use that FPGA.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that retro. One of the things I recently picked up, and I'm going to post to Twitter about this, and probably after we're done tonight, is I got one. I finally bit the bullet, and I got one of those reproduction cartridges because the game I wanted was Japan only,
great.
and
yeah,
I was shocked. You're right. I was skeptical for the longest time.
I got 15 of those things.
And I plugged it. Like, the first thing I did when I got the cartridges, I opened it up. I just had to look at the chip, just because I've seen some horror stories. But no, it was clean. It looked good. So I was like, all right. So I put it back together. I put it in my Super Nintendo. In this case, it was Super Nintendo game. It was Rendering Ranger R2. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's a run and gun Japan only shooter. It's amazing, and it works beautifully, and it doesn't heat up. I played it for a few hours. It's not
out of Japan for the Super Nintendo. I mean, I have every Japanese Super Nintendo game.
Cool.
For my EverDrive. But the problem is, I don't know what games are good and what can be played, because some of them are non-playable. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't speak Japanese or read Japanese. You're not playing that game.
Yeah, that's true.
But
this one was awesome because it was all in English anyway.
Yeah, most. I don't want to say most. A crap ton are, but you have to know which ones are. And I'm again, half the time I'm lazy. What I did is I built folders on my EverDrive, and I put like all the shooters in one folder, all the running guns in one folder, all the Japanese games in one folder. So when I've got that EverDrive, I can jump between the different folders. And but yeah. So what was the name of it again? I'll give it a try.
Yep. Rendering Ranger.
Rendering Ranger.
Yep. R2. I'll post a picture of it later on Twitter. It's one of those games. The fact I don't even know why it didn't even get a U.S. release. It's amazing. It's up there in my opinion, and people will disagree with this, but they're welcome to. It's up there with Contra 3 because it's difficult, but it's rewarding because the more you get into the game, like in the beginning of the game, you're like, okay, I've seen, it looks like samey, the post-apocalyptic area and all. It looks like a Terminator game almost. But the further you get in, you get rewarded. It turns into from a running gun to a shmup, and I do mean a classic shmup, not a bullet hell shooter. Back to a running gun.
Shoot 'em ups. I don't like bullet hell.
Yeah, no, this isn't that. So this is truly, enemies crowd the screen and you have to blow everything up. So, and then it goes back to run and gun, and it switches between the two like every other level. But what's amazing is the further you get in, the more and more they use the special effects and the more impressive it gets. And there is not a lick of slowdown. It's amazing. And it's not like one or two enemies on the screen either. We're talking like screen filling, like what you normally see on a Genesis. Oh, and even then, it almost feels like a Neo Geo game. Yeah, it's on the Super Nintendo.
I can't check it out anytime soon because all my actually my actual real Super Nintendo is unpacked. I took it out of a box today, but I want to use it on my Mini, but actually I don't know how I'll get that to my Mini. Yeah, because I don't have all the Japanese games Well, I do actually have them. I have them on a SD drive, but y'all have to figure out how to get that onto my mini. But I can just, I
Yeah.
already have it on my EverDrive. So, and the clone consoles got unpacked today too. Besides the Super Nintendo, I just don't have them hooked up to the tube TV. I got rid. I broke my heart, but my 32-inch tube that was like one of the best tube TVs ever made. That I had, I got rid of it, and I got rid of the 36-inch Sony that was just a beast. It was so big and heavy when I moved, but I did keep two. They're both 26, I think, is what they are, 25 or 26-inch, and they're both Sonys. One's like a silver frame, and the other one's an all black frame. But yeah, I had to get rid of a couple of them. I just didn't want to move them here because I don't know at what point my son will move out and it'll just be me. And I'm like, and I'm going to be moving and buying a house at some point. And I'm like, I don't want to move those televisions myself. And I don't have, I'm not going to have the room that I had in that house that I was renting that I'm now renting an apartment. You know, it's a big apartment, it's 3-bedroom, but the rooms aren't as big as what I just came from. And I mean, I'm having a hard time fitting everything in now, and I got rid of a lot of stuff. But the only gaming related stuff I got rid of was those tube TVs. And I always knew I wanted to get rid of them anyway. I'm trying to get much smaller, like BVMs or PVMs, the real good ones that were in television stations. But people are, caught on to that a few years back, and they sell them for way too much. I mean, you can still get good commercial television sets for almost nothing. So, and I'm pretty happy with the ones I've got. But I hated giving up that 32-inch, but it was just too damn big. But picture quality wise, it was pretty special. The year it came out, it was like television of the year that year, and very few TVs ever reached that level of quality that it had. Even though it was not a main brand, it was it wasn't a Sony or anything like that, but it was just had a great picture. But it was just too big, too heavy, and hell, even though the two I kept are too heavy. So, but eventually I'll have to, when I get the right ones, I'm gonna change these out. But for now, I got what I got. I just got to hook that stuff back up.
Yeah, I used to have a large television too, and when I moved from New York to Maine, I just couldn't take it with me. It was too big, too heavy. So I had to give that one up. But I ended up getting at the time an LCD screen, which I guess technically it's a downgrade from a CRT, but at the same time, I just wanted the widescreen and all the extra.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'll deal with it. Now the technology's gotten better, of course, but I still kind of miss it.
It's just not the same for the old consoles. I don't come and they all sell those HDMI cables that can hook to your old consoles, and I've tried those and I've spent some money on them, and they're okay. They are, but it's not the same. I just want component out and hooked to a tube, because those games were designed, when they built that game on that dev kit or whatever for whatever console, they had a tube monitor that was sitting there. It was usually a Sony PVM, but it was still that was before Sony even sold consoles. But they used the pixels and how pixels work on those TVs, how they made the games work. It was tied together. Whereas with LCDs, it's not. It's got nothing to do with it. But and it's just different. And you can't. All the old games will never. And I'm not saying they look bad on modern televisions. They used to look really bad, but now with the all those minis, those all look fine on modern televisions. They got HDMI out and they work and they look good. But you just, something about playing them on a real CRT. There's just something about it that's just better. I don't know.
Well, they're designed around that. The color of a CRT television is not the same color depth and the same color range as an LCD. I mean, yeah, LCDs have a very
NTSC, the
large.
joke back in the day was never the same color.
Never twice the same color. Yeah, yeah, or
Yeah,
never. Yeah,
that's not what NTSC
and
really
then I
stands
think PAL was like I forgot what PAL stand for. It was like perfect or fine. It was I don't remember. It
for.
was
I
like
don't know what
perfection.
PAL stands for.
Actually, something I have to look it up.
Yeah,
But it's funny.
NTSC doesn't stand for not the same color, but or
No,
never the same color. But that's what people used to joke because from one model to the next it'd be different depending on your
exactly,
home filter
exactly.
inside of it and the yeah.
Yeah,
But
there's a whole YouTube stuff if you look it up about the differences between the two, like PAL and the hertz and why they use 60 hertz and it's interesting history, but that's
yeah,
beside the
yeah.
point.
I lived in Germany back in the 80s, and the TVs there used PAL or C-SCAN was like the French one. French always got to
Right.
be fucking different. They'd kill me. I've been watching. I'm sorry, I'm cursing more than I used to than the last time we did a show together. I've been watching The Ranch, and every other word is fuck on that show, and it's great. I love it.
Can't argue with that. That's but no, it's fine. Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, different areas of the world, and then there was this whole back. This is back in the day. This is how far back I go, I guess. There was a whole argument when the PlayStation 1 came out. Which was better, Wipeout in PAL or Wipeout in, NTSC? And
Well,
some people
the
swore
truth
by the
is,
PAL
PAL
version.
television looked better. Uh, they were a higher. God, I hate using that word, but yeah, they were higher res than the
They were,
NTSC.
but
Yeah,
they
so
were lower frame rate.
yeah,
Because they had 50, or if you half that, it's 25 versus the 60/30 that the
yeah,
NTSC used. So some games that were designed around NTSC ran slower on PAL systems, but
yeah,
systems that when they designed it around PAL and they piped it through the NTSC, it ran faster, but unfortunately it threw off the timing.
yeah.
So they had to
Those games
sometimes
just looked
readjust it.
better. I mean, because of the color depth and all that.
Exactly.
And then there's what bad
Um,
is movies and things like that, and even celestial broadcasts look better on those televisions than what you'd get in the States. And
right. But now that they have
it
the
wasn't much of a
HDMI and all
difference. I
that,
mean, like I said, I spent 3 years in Germany, and I know the difference. And I had a multi-system television it did PAL, C-SCAM, NTSC, and
nice.
then two other ones. It had like 5 different world. It truly was a worldwide television. You could take anywhere and it'd work. And it was 110 to 240 for the
The
electricity.
voltage, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I always thought that was weird. It was 110 to 240. I'm like, no one in the world uses 240. But it had that little, I guess it's like a buffer or something. I don't know. Fuck. That's what it said on the back of it, anyways, 110 to 240. But
Did they
yeah,
use 240 in Europe though? I mean, I heard that they
220.
had
I think it was just 220 what
220.
they used. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't 240.
No,
Interesting.
no, it was 220. That's
It's
why I
probably the
thought it was
buffer,
funny.
like
I'm
you
like,
said.
why the fuck is that 240? It's 220 throughout most of Europe. And most of Asia, it still uses 220 to this day, although not Japan. Japan used like 120, which was really weird, just a little more. But almost all Japanese products will plug in the US.
Oh yeah,
They'll pull enough from your 110 to work fine. You don't need any kind of adapter or anything.
yeah. I have plenty of stuff from Japan that's electronic that works great.
Oh yeah, yeah, I do too, and I just plug it in. I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah, I
But
think when it's less. I mean, it can cause a strain on the product, but I don't think it's so much that I don't know. I'm sure someone can technically break it down for why, but yeah, you're right. I don't worry about it. It just
yeah,
works.
I know there was a time when there were people selling stuff that supposedly made the electricity correct for whatever transformers, but you don't need that for Japanese products. You really don't. You just need that for
No, for
European that
sure.
uses 220. But yeah, I used to have multi-voltage, receivers, multi-voltage televisions. I did a lot of years overseas in my life, and yeah, so everything they carried in the base exchange on the base you were in were all multi-voltage. They didn't want you buying something, taking it home, and then frying it. Although they also carried transformers and sold them that, so all your shit would work over there, just down converted to power. I used to have one set that every wall receptacle I'd have a transformer plugged into. My son lives in Germany now, and when I was over there visiting, he would get mad at me because I was like, just fucking plug it into a transformer. 110 shit, and they don't want to do that. He says, "Oh, it runs up my electric bill." And I'm like, so your bill's gonna be 3 more cents. Fuck, He acts like I don't know. I lived over there. I do understand the difference and how all that works. And I'm like, it's not gonna run your bill up. That's not that big a deal.
Well, it's not like you're going to plug it in for a year or two. We're running it at full power.
No, I did that shit. I'm like, you don't remember. This is what I was saying to my son. You don't remember. Just a few years ago, we were living in fucking Korea together. Every single plug-in had a transformer set beside of it, and we ran everything off of it, including I had a dryer hooked to a transformer, for God's sake, because I wasn't giving up nothing. Although the dryer did run up my electric bill, running it through the transformer. I didn't use it that much. Mostly we'd just hang or close up dry. But the washer was no big deal running it through a transformer. But by that time, all my electronics were just 110, and so I just ran everything through a transformer. But it was no big deal.
Whatever makes it work and doesn't burn it out, it's good enough. That's how I look at it. But just to kind of loop back, so you asked me how the PS5 was. I mean, logistics aside and also worries of overheating aside, plays well. Happy with the backward compatibility. I can confirm that, yes, it does play even some of the more obscure imported games, like the indie titles that, like, say, Limited Run or Special Reserve, or any one of them were released, work perfectly on the PS5. And like the Xbox, it was just a matter of just switching the hard drive over. It just instantly found it and it started working.
Yeah, and they just don't guarantee those games will work. Sony wasn't willing to
No, but they do.
Yeah, they do. I know. Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
and I actually like their system for backwards compatibility because basically it emulates, instead of the game being what's emulated, the console's emulated, so it runs stuff at the same clock speed as a PS4 or a PS4 Pro, and you get that version of the game. Now, I thought that was pretty cool, but Sony just couldn't guarantee that all the games would work.
Right, and what's cool about it though is that, like the Xbox, it does actually improve. Like, for example, if a game had a frame rate problem on the PS4 or the PS4 Pro, that goes away on the PS5. It actually improves the frame rate.
If it was an uncapped frame rate game.
Right. If it's capped, that's where you're going to play it at. Right, exactly. But they also did release a few patches for some of their newer games, like Ghost of Tsushima. Amazing that it runs at 4K 60. It looks amazing. I actually waited to play that game until I got the PS5, and I'm glad I did. And God of War now, since that had an uncapped frame rate, finally runs even 60, in performance mode.
Yeah.
Because in the PS4 Pro, it couldn't even hit. It was lucky if it hit 45 or 50. It could never hit 60. So, like the Xbox, the backward compatibility is very well done, and at least it improves. I mean, the Xbox is obviously a little bit better because it goes back further. It's not just the Xbox One.
Yeah, and now they got auto HDR, so fuck.
Exactly. So
amazing.
But at least for the backward compatibility for PS4 stuff, no problems. And it has the same type of improvements, where the frame rate's uncapped. So good for them on that level. And the only real game I really played, I haven't played Demon's Souls or anything yet, but I did play Spider-Man Miles Morales, and very good. It's a great game. The ray tracing is very impressive, especially considering how open world it is, and they use it on every reflective surface.
Yeah, but it's still too short. I got a copy of it for the PS4, and I beat it in under 5 hours.
It's a good game.
But
still, honestly,
a full game. It's like, I hate it when I wish they had just been honest and sold it and said, "Hey, yeah, it's DLC." It's just too
I
short
can
to be
see
able to
that,
play
although I'm taking my time with it, so I'm getting way more than 5 hours. That's me. That's just my experience. I'm getting way more than 5 hours out of it because I'm doing all the side quests. I'm going like, I'm literally like walking around Manhattan, just looking at the detail and stuff. Being from New York City, that's kind of a big deal to me. And I will say it's fairly accurate for what it is. I mean, it's not 100% obviously, but they got all the landmarks in the right place, and they got a lot of how New York is for the most part. If you do play it and you're walking through the streets and you see like it's uh, like the Empire State Building or something, it's accurate.
It was
I
that
mean,
way
I
in
was.
the original game too. So
Oh no, yeah, well, yeah, yeah, but I'm just saying that with the extra detail, they put in a few more things with Miles Morales. Just like Spanish Harlem and all that, they're just much more accurate because that's what it's based around of.
yeah,
Um, but anyway, long story short, I'm happy with it. Also, Astro's Playroom really is a great demo for that controller. It's short. I beat it, I platinumed it, but it's amazing with how that could, like, okay, so how like the Switch is HD Rumble.
yeah,
I like to talk about the DualSense's Ultra HD Rumble. It's that far ahead of it. It's a huge step above even the HD Rumble, because not only the triggers give you different, differentiate. Different feedback, but you can actually feel in different parts of the control of the rumble in different, like HD Rumble is, but much much more pronounced. So when something pans like through the screen and you feel the rumble pan through the controller, you can really feel it pan through the controller. HD Rumble wasn't quite that.
yeah. I don't want to get in an argument with you on that stuff. That's all just gimmicky shit to me.
I
I don't.
understand. I'm just saying
I
though,
don't
but
even like Rumble on any controller, to be honest.
and
I've
that's
always
fine.
thought that was just gimmicky. It does not bring any realism to me when the controller rumbles. In fact, it's the opposite. It takes me out of any game that uses it. But that's just me. I'm weird.
No, that's fine, and I respect that. That's cool. I'm just saying that for me, the way I wasn't expecting it is what I'm trying to say, is that I was just expecting like a rumble or just a light rumble. No, it feels the way you think it does, and it's worth it giving it a shot. I mean, you can turn it off, of course, if you don't like it. You
Yeah,
go into the
that's
main
what I'll end
menu,
up doing. I've
but
always turned the rumble off of everything that I could. Going all the way back to the N64, I didn't like the rumble pack on that. I'm like, that was just fucking gimmicky.
kind of was, but at the same time, it really helped you with Zelda because it's the only way to find half the secrets because it started to rumble when you got the Stone of Agony.
Yeah, there's been other
Although,
games that used rumble to let you know something's about to happen or this or that. But
yeah, when they did the 3DS remake, of course they didn't have a rumble on 3DS, so now it's a chime. So you're really not missing much, I guess. I don't know. I like the gimmicky stuff. Me, that's just me because I like to feel the rumble, but that's me. I totally understand. A lot of people feel that way, not just you, but others. They don't like it and they turn it off. Nothing wrong with that. But for those of you who do like it, it is worth it. It is there, and it is as advertised. So
yeah, except the third party are not going to use it very much.
no, no, I know they're
First
not.
party will use it for a while anyway. But even Sony's notorious for putting crap like that in and then not. They, my understanding is what Sony put out as part of their SDKs is like there's a level, a B level, and a C level that third party people can pick any of those three when they're building a game to get how much rumble,
Mhm.
and or they can not put any in it or put the same rumble that the Xbox controller has.
Right.
They have options when they're building the games. So third party's always going to go to whatever's the easiest. But I would
Oh yeah, the
imagine,
come.
you know,
Yeah,
I mean, even Nintendo, very few uh, Switch games use the rumble and those things. I mean, that was one of the most
that's
wasted
true.
things than ever. And if Nintendo can't get them to do it, I don't see Sony be able to make them do it either.
Yeah, I will say that the one game that really did it well was Blaster Master, the remake, Blaster Master Zero. When that, like on the HD Rumble on the Switch, you can actually like there's this one level where the water sweeps over and you have to hide behind a wall, otherwise you get swept away. You can actually feel it before you see it and it actually is accurate. You can feel it go across the system or the controller. Um, that was actually useful because it gave you a warning before you even heard or saw it that the water's coming. So that was. I wish more. I guess what I'm saying is I wish more companies would do something like that, but unfortunately, when they don't, it turns into a gimmick, like you said. And when they do it right, it's awesome.
I just think they should have more better sound cues. Rumble doesn't, yeah, it's just doesn't replicate what you're seeing on the screen. It just gives you so you know something's about to happen, but I just never
Depends on
liked.
how.
I guess racing games were kind of okay, but even that I always thought was kind of stupid. If I'm turning and then now my controller's rumbling, but it's like just know what it feels like in a vehicle or in a race car.
No, you're not going to get that.
Got a
No,
little
that's
fucking
true.
motor inside the controller that's just vibrating. It doesn't really replicate, so there's no immersion. It actually is the. I always looked at it as, and I'm probably wrong and feeling that way, but to me, it just any rumble takes away from the immersion of a game, unless the game's got some kind of rumble but that's not what you'd feel in your fingers or your hands if it was real life. Of course, I'm overthinking it because it's not real life. It's a fucking video game. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know if I'd really want it that realistic, especially when it, with some of these
that's
games
just
being what they
what
are.
I was getting at. For me, I know people are loving that feature, but my thing is, I just think it was about time that PlayStation finally made a better controller. Let's be honest. The DualShock, the PS4 controllers were garbage. Compared to they're not really garbage, but compared to the Xbox controller they were, and now they've got something that's almost probably on par.
And it feels
Other than the
great.
sticks still aren't offset, and Sony's they're not gonna admit that they're not as good, so they're just gonna keep doing that. I mean, there's just no getting around it.
Yeah, I've adjusted though. Overall, having played PlayStation, I mean, I like personally. I have to say, Rumble aside, forget the features and the gimmick stuff. It feels great. It feels weighty. It feels like a premium product now. It doesn't. One thing I hated about the DualShock 4 2 was the analog triggers. They
Yeah,
felt like cheap. I don't
well, the
know.
whole controller felt cheap. I thought
Yeah, so
did
not
not have
anymore.
that because I kept
It
mine
feels
sitting right
solid.
beside each other in the floor, and I'd be going from one to the playing Xbox and then jump onto a PlayStation game and then pick it up and go, ooh, fuck. Yeah, it's just not, this wasn't but it wasn't bad. It just wasn't as well built as what Xbox
Yeah,
did.
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
And
no, I
now I
agree.
think they I guess because they spent the extra money putting all the motors in there that they up the quality of everything else on it to kind of match.
Yeah, no, they really it really feels like a solid product now. So, um, solid controller. So I have to say it's a massive improvement over the PS4.
Well, I've
So
always
so
said the
far so
PS4
good
wasn't
there.
that good of a controller, but so-called ponies would argue to death over that, saying, "Oh, PS4 is the best controller ever." And I'm like, no, you're fucking
No,
stupid. Even the
no,
GameCube controller was better than the PS4 controller.
yeah, the
Actually, I
GameCube
think the
controller was
GameCube
something
controller was,
special to me.
yeah, it's the best controller ever. I've got about 8 of those things. Once they moved on to the Wii, and fucking Wii mode. Don't even get me started on that. But when I
Well,
realized you could use the GameCube controllers on the Wii, I started buying them up. I was like, I love the GameCube.
it's interesting you mentioned that. Just a little side note. So you know how they have the GameCube adapter now for the Wii U. It was originally meant for Smash
Yeah,
Brothers, so you can use the GameCube. Well, they did patch in the option to use a GameCube controller for Mario Sunshine now,
cool.
and yep, and it works great. It uses the analog sticks now, which is awesome. The analog triggers for the flood, and you can change the cameras and everything. And now it feels like a true HD version of the original game, like
Nice.
hardcore. It's I'm very surprised Nintendo did that because Nintendo is not known for that. I don't know who did what or who said that this is a good idea, but I'm happy they did.
Well, I think
It's rare.
Nintendo secretly always known how much better the GameCube controller was. Everything that came after. They knew that, and so they've always tried to make those GameCube controllers work with everything else.
Yeah, which I can respect. At least,
They couldn't
I
admit it
can get my old
publicly, or they
stuff.
can't talk about it because that was one of the big selling points of the Wii was the Wiimote, and even though it was garbage.
Right.
But yeah, and I've even got the control pads for the Wii and the. Well, I don't actually have a Wii U. I need to pick up a Wii U too. By the way, I don't have one.
Oh, it's not a bad system at all. I enjoy it.
It came after the 360 and the PS3, so I think of the Wii as the competitor for those systems. So the Wii U
That's
kind of lived
exactly
on
what it
its own
is.
little island of, I'm shocked that it failed as bad as it did because it had a lot of great games, and everybody loves playing those games on the fucking Switch. But man, they didn't like it for the Wii U.
It's unfortunate that the Wii U failed like that because I was a big supporter of it. I bought it day one. I still play it every now and then. There's still some games that are not on the Switch yet.
I remember walking into the GameStop. I don't know how long we'd been back from Korea, but we'd been living over there and we'd gotten back. And I remember being in a GameStop and seeing the Wii U there. And I hadn't bought one yet. I don't know how long it'd been out, but I looked at it and I'm like, this is fucking stupid. That's like a toy. And I'm like, and I wasn't sure, did I just buy the controller? Was it the Wii with a new?
Yeah.
I didn't really know.
A lot of people did that.
I should have known, but I wasn't paying attention to that kind of thing at that particular point in time whenever it came out. And by then I was already worried about well, not worried, but I was already reading shit about the Xbox One and the PS4. Well, I didn't know it was going to be called the Xbox One then, but I was already reading about the next gen consoles coming. So the Wii U didn't make any sense to me. And when I seen it in the stores, I was like, yeah, I'll pick one up later. And then I seen a lot of good games for it. I always meant to get one, but for some reason or another, just never did. And then now, and that's the thing, they sell them for the same fucking price. You can't, even if you're lucky enough to find one new, they still sell them. Yeah.
I know. That's crazy. You wouldn't think.
You Dreamcast for nothing when the second Sega pulled the plug. You could walk into a Toys R Us and pick up fucking Dreamcast for like $80.
I remember that.
Was what, a $350 console?
It was 200, but yeah, it was crazy. It was,
whatever it was. I just know they were like $80 at the end of its life, and for brand new ones. But that didn't happen with Nintendo. They keep their prices jacked up.
And people buy it. I mean, that's why they do it.
I'm going to pick up a used one sooner or later. In fact, about a month ago or 2 months ago, I can't remember exactly when, but I was looking online pretty hard to find a new one still in the box because they're still out there. I mean, GameStop sold them for a long time after the fact. They still had them, but I couldn't find any in this area. And I think I went like a 300-mile radius for GameStop to see if anybody had a new Wii U. Or even a used Wii U. I couldn't even get a used one. Fuck. But at GameStop, I could have got one through some other means, but they're always on eBay. But nah, I hate buying stuff like that at eBay.
I know. I mean, I'll buy stuff off of eBay, like games and stuff, but I will not buy systems off of eBay.
The last thing I bought off of eBay was I bought a VCR. I found a big box of VHS tapes, and I'm like, fuck, I can't play these anymore. And so I ordered nothing special, not an S. I wanted an SVH, but people were still selling those things crazy priced. And I'm like, I had an SVH player back in the day, and I'm like, it's not that much better than just VHS. It's just a little bit better.
Right, just higher resolution. That's all it is.
Yeah, none of the. No, it's the same resolution. It's something else. It's just got the chrominess. No, it's got it's the same res, but the chrominous, luminous, and all that are on separate wires. So these look better.
I see.
Everything's a little punchier and brighter on it using the S video.
Okay.
But none of the movies, if you buy pre-recorded movies, were ever sold SVHS. They were just VHS, and when you played those on an SVHS player, it was debatable whether it was better or not. I know some of the manufacturers claimed they looked better, but they really didn't. But if you had an SVHS tape and you recorded something off your television and you record it and then you pop that out and popped in a VHS, same program recorded, the SVHS one would look a little bit better. But I found, like with Laserdisc players later on, by the end of its life cycle, they got so good at the comb filters and those things, and the comb filters and tube televisions by the end of the life of those things, you didn't need SVHS anymore. Just, using regular, the red, just a yellow video cable was good enough. You didn't need the component or just composite video actually looked great because of the superior comb filters they started putting televisions in the last few years, like 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. I don't know. Right about the time, that HD killed regular televisions. But anyway,
Right.
It just pissed me off because I was going to get an SVHS one, but the people on fucking eBay selling them crazy prices. So I was like, no, I'm not paying $150 or $180 for an SVHS VCR. That's stupid. When I can get a regular VHS one, it's every bit as good, as long as it's hi-fi for like $30. So yeah, it's that whole scarcity thing. There's not nearly as many SVHS as ever produced, so people that have them want to sell them for a stupid price. That's the thing with Laserdisc players too. People try to sell those things for crazy prices.
It's funny. At what point, like it happens with almost everything. It's like, at what point does that sweet spot, like, does it cross that threshold from, when it's just cheap, when it's at the end of its life and it's cheap enough, and then all of a sudden it just skyrockets because now people really want it for collecting.
Yeah, you got to hit that right time. I got back into vinyl at the right time. I bought a really nice turntable for almost nothing, and
now it's like crazy. It's just so expensive.
Yeah, Walmart carries vinyl now, so people sell turntables. It's almost like it used to be back in the day. You either got to pay a crap ton of money for a good one, or buy a real cheap one, which can still be bought at like a Walmart, but they're crap and the sound quality is horrible.
Yeah,
but yeah, and a lot of people don't know you can get just fucking killer 2-channel receivers for almost nothing. I'm talking like under $100. You can get Marantz, Sony, and what's the other one? It's a company that not used to be real big, but they're not anymore. But they still sell receivers. But anyway, just use them for 2-channel audio, and they're usually 100 watts, which has always been a fake advertising. That means they're really 50 per channel.
Right. Yeah.
But they say it's 100 watt. But yeah.
It's divided between each channel. Yeah.
Lots of nice 2-channel receivers. It's got this big old transformers in them, and they most speakers have a decent enough efficiency that a fucking 100-watt receiver is like way more than you really need. Usually 20-30 watts is all that'll be more than enough to power most speakers. And if you're buying speakers that need more than that, then you're spending too much money. But yeah, you're right on that. Though you got to hit that sweet spot and catch something when it's before.
It's hard because half the time, it's like, okay, do I really need this now? Should I wait? Can I afford it now? Yes, I can. Maybe not. Maybe I can wait. And then as soon as you wait, that's it. It's done.
360 and PS3 games have went through the roof, and I bought about 50 of each from each console a few years ago, and then I was paying between $3 and $5 for the games.
Yeah.
And I bought just what I needed. And thank God, all those games, the majority of them ended up being back compat. So it was like, oh, cool. I have that, and I would have never bought it. And, and I don't have to pay for it now. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. And the PS3, because none of that shit's back compat. It's like, yeah, I've got all these now. So I don't have a big collection, but I got about 60, 70 PS3 games. And I bought most of those long after the thing, just because I was gonna try to hit that sweet spot. Okay, now's the time to collect for the PS3, and then I started buying games, and then, but then I just stopped because Xbox had that sweet back compat program, and you could just buy the fucking games on there. You didn't even have to go get the disc.
Right.
And not only that, but them same assholes were selling 360 games higher priced. Oh, it's now back compat, and all of a sudden it'd be a $5 game selling $20. I'm like, you motherfuckers. That shit just kills me. But anyway, I just stopped buying them, and because I didn't want I got spoiled from the whole digital thing. And it was so cool because the PS4 didn't, as great as that console had, and all those. No, it only had about 20 games through its entire life that was worth owning that you couldn't get on the Xbox, the so-called banger exclusive. So it was great. I don't have a shit ton of games, but what I got is what I needed.
Well, you got the cream of the crop, and that's
exactly
all that matters.
And anything that was a great game that I didn't buy, well, I have that great game for the Xbox. And the Xbox, the One X was such a beast anyway. I traded that in too on this Series X, and I kind of miss it. I really like that One X. There's just something about it.
I'm going to keep mine.
I wish I had them, and I regret selling it. I'm not kidding you. And I didn't need the money. Fuck. I did not need the money. But I just kept thinking, well, fuck, everything's back compat. What am I ever going to use it? The 4K Blu-ray player in it was not great. It was average at best. And I've already got a standalone 4K player. And the Series the Series X has a 4K Blu-ray player in it. So I'm like, I'm just not going to need that One X. So it'll just sit. But sometimes I like shit that just sits. It's cool to have.
It's interesting you bring that up. So yes, before the PS5, I was of course using the One X for the Blu-ray, the Ultra Blu-rays, which it did okay, but you're right, it was just I will say that the PS5 is a better Blu-ray player, Ultra Blu-ray player. It runs them, I don't know, faster and smoother to me, and it just looks better.
I don't doubt it. I never thought the one in the the thing was, the one they put in the One X was the same one that was in the One S. They were the exact same disk drive.
Right.
Microsoft didn't do any kind of upgrade or anything. And you have to download the software for it to work. And I don't know, it just wasn't that good. So one of the first things I did, even back when I had the Xbox One X, is I bought as soon as the prices dropped on them enough, I bought a standalone 4K Blu-ray player, and not regretting it. Although I didn't buy a high-end one. They had, Oppo had some really amazing high-end players. They don't sell those anymore. I wished I had one. I'm regretting that now, that I didn't spend $400 on a 4K Blu-ray player when I could have. And but I just thought that was expensive.
You did what you thought was right at the time. Hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah, and I just got a cheapy LG player, but it's still way better than the Xbox player was. Now the one in the Series X, I don't know if that's the same drive or not. I don't know what Microsoft did differently, but I think this one actually plays movies better than my One X did. I don't know. They're hooked to the same TV, and I don't have them side by side for comparison now. But and I don't use it. I still use my standalone player mostly because I don't want to kill my disc drive on my Series X, a $500 console.
Oh yeah,
playing fucking movies when I can just play the movie on the standalone player.
Sure. I agree with you, and I don't plan to use my PS5 for my Ultra Blu-rays. I just wanted to try it out. I just had to pop one in and watch it just to see how it, put it through its paces. But no, I agree. It's like
I killed a PS2
with the DVDs. Yeah.
I went through a span where I wasn't playing any games. I was watching fucking movies crazy on that fucker, and I was renting movies every night from Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, and it quit. I was like, holy shit, I'm not even playing games on this fucker, and I've killed it. I was like, I'm not gonna be doing that anymore, and bought a DVD player separate, which by then wasn't very expensive anyway.
Yeah, that's what I did. I actually bought a DVD player because I bought a DVD actually when they first came out when they were like $400. And I had a DVD player by the time the PS2 came out, so I was like, yeah, I'll just use the PS2 as a game system.
And the truth
Um,
was, I actually had a player too, a standalone DVD player, but I was just using my PlayStation, not even thinking about it, and I actually killed that fucker playing movies on it. That's why that I was so mad at Sony for them cheap ass lasers they used on the PS1 and the PS2.
I think that's why my PS2 lasted a lot longer than most people because I didn't play movies on it. I just played games. And also, too, I didn't get it when it first came out. I actually waited. I actually ended up getting the Gran Turismo 3 package when they packaged it with that. And by that time, they improved a couple of things in it. So it was like, oh, okay, one of those shadow improvements that they like to do. And that one lasted me, well, just lasted me. It finally died, but after I got the slim model because I wanted to. When I moved the first time because I moved to Florida first for about a year, and I wanted to get a slimmer model at the time, and then so I got the slim, and I was happy with that, and then I finally got the old one back, and the thing just died on me. I don't even know if it's the laser, to be honest with you. It just didn't turn on at that point. I don't know what killed it. Probably something, maybe the move. Um, but my slims still work great. Yeah,
Yeah, I skipped the N64 because I was mad at Nintendo for skipping out on it, and they really did. And I didn't want to get into what they did internally to keep the price down, but it basically was not a 64-bit system. It was a name only. It only had a 32-bit bus, so it was like you're saying it's a 64-bit, but it's not. It had the I guess the graphics chip in it was 64-bit, but it couldn't. They only had a 32-bit bus, so you're never going to get chip that look better.
It's my least favorite Nintendo system. People, like those memes on
first, for a lot of nostalgia reason, it was their first 3D console.
Yeah, my first
Mario 3D was amazing, and the Zelda game came out on that system, but the majority of stuff was just horrible. And
honestly, I bought the first PlayStation before I got the Nintendo 64, like some people, and I was sold on 3D from that. And when I moved to the Nintendo 64, I only got it, and I got it way later. Like I didn't get it when it came out. I waited. I only got it when Mario, because after I wanted to play Mario, but after F-Zero came out, F-Zero, forget the name of it, not GX. Anyway, the F-Zero on it, that's what kind of sold me on it. And then, of course, Zelda. So I was like, okay, now I'll get it. But by that time, it was already established. And I was like happy with those games. I love them, but I was like, I don't really care for the system beyond them because the 3D really wasn't that good. I mean, yeah, it had a couple of things the PlayStation did, and it had a better color palette.
PlayStation, the 3D wasn't that good. None of those games hold up very
well. No, I mean it was early 3D. I mean it was just they were just starting to hit the 3D, at the beginning. I understood that, but even compared, all the things being equal, even compared to the PlayStation, the one thing the PlayStation 1 had over the Nintendo 64, besides the fact that it was a CD, was the fact that the frame rates, and yeah, I'm going to say this, were actually more consistent on a PlayStation 1 than they were on the Nintendo 64. Nintendo 64 may have had a better color palette, but my God, you want to talk about single-digit frames. I mean, I love Star Fox. Star Fox tanks on the underwater level. I mean, it's terrible. And trust me, I love the game, but oh my God, it was just horrible to play. And I'm like, even compared to like PlayStation 1 games, which some of them ran as low as 12 to 15 frames a second. Not great, especially by today's standards, but they were consistent. So you kind of got used to them, and new 3D was new. But even then, I could see the Nintendo 64 was struggling on just the dumbest things. And I'm like, it should be way more powerful. And to me, it just was a disappointment.
They made some really bad decisions in designing that. Maybe not as bad as what Sega did with the Saturn to throw in 3D at the last second, because it was a 2D beast, and that 3D shit didn't help nothing, and it wasn't as good as what Sony already had for the PlayStation. But yeah, Thank God for the 2D Saturn games, though. I still my all-time favorite console.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I loved the 2D on that system. I mean, I got the shooters, I got the fighters.
Yeah.
It just worked so well. Um, and then but Nintendo, to my eyes, more or less redeemed themselves with the GameCube. I really love the GameCube.
Yeah, I
I
love the
thought,
GameCube too. It's after the Saturn, it's my second all-time favorite console.
yeah, and
I
it
got
has a
one
great
set beside
controller.
me here. It's not hooked up right now, but I just got a GameCube sitting beside of me. I'm weird like that. When I set my double wide recliner in here in front of the 4K set, I used one of those 4 cube things that I set the TVs on. I set a tube up there, and then in one of the cubes, I'm like, well, I got to stick a GameCube in the cube there, and I hadn't hooked it up yet. I probably won't because I play all my GameCube stuff now on a Wii, but I still got multiple GameCubes.
Yeah, I have. I still have my Game Boy player attached to my GameCube.
Yeah, I love the fact that I've got it for those. Yeah, the Game Boy Advance games, which I consider the GBA, the last true great 16-bit system. Even though it was more than 16-bit, and I know that. And I've got people on Twitter like freak out at me for calling the Game Boy Advance the last great 16. Oh, it's not 16-bit, whatever. But anyway, my God, those games look great through a GameCube onto a regular television. And
They do, they really do. And
it gave to me, it's like playing. It was like, oh, this is just like a Super Nintendo game. Holy fuck!
Exactly. Well,
Yeah,
really, that's what it was.
Gave me extra years of 16-bit goodness and I love that now I've got the 800 and something games that were on the Super Nintendo, and I've got another 600 from the GameCube. It's like, or from the Game Boy Advance through the GameCube that I can play. Just 2D, beautiful 16-bit, or if you want to call it 32-bit, whatever. But I'm telling you right now, there's nothing on the Game Boy Advance that looks as good as what shit looked on the Saturn.
Oh no. The Game Boy Advance was basically the Super Nintendo without any of the limitations.
Yeah.
That's all it was. And one of the games that I loved, absolutely think is completely underrated and people always forget about it, is Gunstar Superheroes, which was basically the sequel to Gunstar Heroes. And to me, just like Gunstar Heroes did for the Genesis, that did for the Game Boy Advance. What it pulled off and what it did was amazing. I mean, just the amount of sprites they got on the screen, just the amount of special effects. I mean, the 3D effects they got on the screen. It was every bit. It was a Gunstar Heroes game. That pure and simple, just adrenaline fueled, awesome game. And that is one of my favorite Game Boy Advance games. And it really shows off what the system could do. It's just like, I mean, there's many others, but I like to pick on that one because that one to me was the most visually stunning in terms of the technical aspect of it. That came as close to a Saturn game as I've seen on the Game Boy Advance.
I've got a Game Boy Advance adapter for the Super Nintendo also. I don't know if you've ever seen that or heard it, but it's
well, you mean the Game Boy? That wasn't the Game Boy Advance, though. Wasn't that the regular Game Boy, though? The Game Boy Color? The one before it?
The Game Boy Color. Hold on. I got it right here.
All right.
This is not from back in the day. This is from recently.
Oh, okay.
Super Retro Advance adapter, and it lets you play your Game Boy Advance games on a fucking Super Nintendo.
That's amazing.
I'll be honest, I've not tried it yet. It's still in its box. There's dust on it. I'm wiping it off right now. I'm going to take a picture of it, and I'm going to send that to you. But it's by Retrobit, and it lets you play your GBA games on your Super NES.
Okay, I had to check this out because that sounds amazing.
I paid much money for it. I don't know where I ordered it at, but it came, and I never used it because I play my Game Boy. I've got a hacked Game Boy. I got a EverDrive for Game Boy Advance, and then I've got that in. Actually, I got two of them. I got one version that's in an actual Game Boy Advance, and I got one that's in my GameCube, and then that's how I play all those. So I never even took the time to pop that out and pop it into this thing and put it in the Super Nintendo. But anyway, yeah, it's called Super Retro Advance Adapter.
I guess it's possible because the Super Nintendo did have those side connectors for like advanced chips like the Super FX and all that, and it allowed it to bypass the CPU, not CPU, the graphics processor. So you can actually put hardware on the actual. That's how the Game Boy worked. Um, hardware on the actual cartridge that basically made the Super Nintendo do a lot more than it was supposed to. um, so maybe I'm overthinking it, but that's still cool. That is still so cool.
Yeah, I just took up pictures of it. I'll tweet that out in a little bit. Actually, I might just tweet it out right now while we're talking here. I'm going to send it. New tweet. Okay, there we go. Super.
By the way, hello to Elm Street Sniper.
He's not in here anymore.
Oh,
to the chat, but I'm showing 0 viewers right now. Which is sad.
Well,
we have nobody watching us. He popped in and had one.
Well, if he watches this afterward, we gave you a shout out, brother. Thank you.
It's really weird, Elm Street Sniper. That might be somebody from one of my movie because like on Twitter, I'm on a lot of movie groups and stuff, and he might be somebody that follows me there, and he might have seen my tweet, popped on here and realized we wasn't talking movies, we were talking video games, and just left. I don't know.
We kind of discussed movies, but earlier on.
Yeah. Hey, did you see that? Where all Warner Brothers movies are going to go day and date into that Warner Max?
Yes.
That's what is HBO Max.
The HBO Max. Yes.
That's making me want to get that. Oh, that's $15 fucking a month.
I have it just because we have HBO already, so yay. But it's interesting because a lot of people are calling it the death knell for theaters. I don't agree with that. But
you cannot replicate the movie theater experience in the home. I don't care how big your fucking TV is.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. If you've got a dedicated home theater room with a 300, not 100, like a 300-inch screen, then you can replicate a movie theater. You can get close with anything 100 or bigger. That's really cool, and you got a nice sound system, but it's still not the same as a movie theater.
No, it's not. And
but
I mean,
because of the virus, movie theaters, it's never going to be the same again.
That's true.
By the time they all get open back up, I don't know that. Yeah, how close the seats are together and being in some place with people. I don't know how it's going to work for them.
The only way it's going to return to normal is if the virus gets eradicated, which. And that's assuming nothing else comes up after it. I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole nother black hole that I don't really want to go down. But yeah, but I think that's just too far. But I think it's cool that they actually are doing that in a way. 'Cause, I mean, you don't have to go to the movies. You can watch it on TV. Which is nice.
Yeah,
at least for the short term.
Years ago, I stopped going to movie theaters. I always preferred being at home anyway. And even before we had big TVs in our houses, just if I had a 32-inch or a 35-inch tube TV, I had always a great sound system. And I felt that was, and even when they had the original rear projection big screen TVs, which, after about a year looked like crap, I still went with tubes because I knew that was the better technology as far as picture quality. They wasn't big, but still with a great sound system. That's the best way to watch movies back then. I had a Laserdisc player. I mean, I'm pretty hardcore into movies, and so I didn't mind. And when you shell out the kind of money back then, you had to shell out for the higher, better quality television and a Laserdisc player. I would just say, okay, I'm just not going to go to a movie theater for the next couple of years, and I'll pay for all this shit. And it kind of did, and I didn't mind.
And I also bought a popcorn maker myself for my.
I got a movie theater style popcorn maker in my living room.
Yep.
Mine's filthy. I used the hell out of it, and I don't use it so much anymore. Now I went back to just microwave popcorn because this thing gets dirty, man.
That's the only thing about them. You really have to keep up with them and clean them. But
I didn't realize it was going to be that bad. But yeah, it is. It's not that it's bad. It's just you got to clean them things, man.
Yeah.
But it's got the big light inside of it, and but that's not what that just keeps the popcorn warm. But
Right.
and I bought the fancy cart mine sets on, and I was lucky I found a black cart, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah. So, and then I got the black trim around the top of it instead of the red or the white and red. I've got one that's black that matched the cart and all that. And it wasn't that expensive. In fact, I may end up buying another one because what happened with mine was part of the reason that it's so filthy is I started putting jalapenos in it with my popcorn. And I don't know if you've ever had jalapeno popcorn, but it's fucking amazing. When I was stationed,
I haven't.
When I was stationed in Korea, we had a popcorn machine that was bought and paid for by Tom Cruise. Because even though this was an Air Force base, when he was filming Top Gun, the fucking Navy wouldn't let him get into the Navy jets. He actually got his training and his check ride on an Air Force jet. And so he bought that squadron, a big movie theater popcorn maker. So I don't know whenever they started doing it, because this was long after Top Gun when I got there. It had been out, but they had started putting jalapenos in this fucker. And they would even sell that at air shows and stuff to make money for the squadron, for silly crap. But yeah, my God.
It sounds awesome.
And mine wasn't nearly the size of the one they had in this place. This was really like one from the movie theater they had, but mine's still big enough. And I started, I'd put one jar of jalapenos dumped in there, and then your regular kernels and some oil and all that, and then cook it. And yeah, but eventually some of those things will burn and get kind of crusty on it. And no, yeah, it's a. And when it's just sitting over in the corner of the room, you don't think about it. It don't look that bad. But when I had to move it into this new place, I was like, holy shit, I've been eating popcorn out of this fucker. And I haven't got it good and clean yet. I'm going to try to do one thorough cleaning. If I get it to I think it's respectable, then I'll keep it. And no, I'm just going to trash it and buy a new one because they're only about $100 now.
Yeah. Well,
I keep the cart. The cart's fine.
Hopefully that's not one of those sweet spot items that ends up skyrocketing when people start realizing, hey, I can watch movies on HBO Max.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna suck it up and pay the $15 a month for it. I mean, I get the Disney, Hulu, and ESPN free because of my phone package, and it's not just like for a year; it's forever. As long as I don't change my phone plan at Verizon, I get those channels free. So I'm like, damn, I was going to pay for that phone shit anyway. So this is cool, but it's not enough. I have a ferocious appetite for movies and television shows. I really do. And Netflix is great. And I don't mind paying for it. It's worth every penny and has been for many years. But yeah,
I agree.
There's times I've burned through it and I'm like, fuck, I can't find nothing to watch. And
I get Hulu free with my cell phone service, so it's like that's cool.
Yeah, before I was only
free,
Disney,
quote unquote,
Disney free, just the Disney Plus, the single channel free. But when I re-upped here recently and bought new phones, they actually kicked in both Hulu and ESPN Plus.
Oh, nice!
So I get all three of them free, which I don't even watch Hulu because it's not the paid version of it. So
that's the only thing. Mine same here. Yeah, I don't watch it, but you know what I mean. It's more to catch up.
Bad. You got it. And actually, I like that NBC one, the Peacock one. It's free. I'm not going to pay the extra money to get to be able to watch stuff without commercials. But they actually hide some of their shows behind paywalls on that. It's not just commercials. There's some shows you can't watch unless you pay for the premium. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that either because there's not that much good on it. But they have some things.
It's getting to the point where all these services are just starting to add up more than cable. I mean,
yeah, right now I only pay for Netflix, $15 a month, and I have the multi-device plan and I have the HD plan, and I'm cool with that. And I get the Disney free, thank God, because of the Mandalorian and all those Marvel shows that are coming, and it's free, so I'm cool with that. But man, to add another one. That's getting up there, and I pay for unlimited for my internet, so that's already kind of pricey. So I hate to add another fucking streaming package, but I may have to.
You have do you have Comcast?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're at Spectrum where I am, but
Well, I had Spectrum before where I was at. And then when I moved, I had to switch to Comcast here. Yeah, I like Spectrum a lot, that Charter.
right. Yep.
But yeah, I hate they have to have them stupid names like Comcast is Xfinity and Charter is Spectrum. It's like, no, you're Comcast and you're fucking Charter. You don't need some silly name. I guess because they got their names got associated with being the most hated companies in the yeah.
Yeah, that's probably why they did it.
Oh, it is why they did it for sure. Polls and surveys and things and found out that their name was associated with hate and was considered, one of the shittiest companies.
Right.
But yeah, I think I'm going to break down and get that because I downloaded the Xbox app for it, of course, and looked at it, and I'm like, holy shit, that's a lot that's already on there, and they're adding all movie theater movies day and date. They got some Warner's. They're one of the original 5 motion picture companies, back in the 1920s, and they've been around all this time, and they're not fucking Disney. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I get worried because these MGM's been on shaky ground for 30 years. They not been the same as they were. Out of the original big ones, the only ones left are Disney, and they came later. But of the original 5, Paramount's still big, and Warner Brothers. The original 5 was those 2, and MGM was 3, and shit, I can't think of the other 2 off my head. But I just, yeah, they got some good movies coming, and I like the fact that their entire friggin' studio is not based on fucking superhero movies. As much as I love superhero movies, and God knows I do, I've got every one of them on 4K. And yeah, it's just that's all Disney does now. And before they just mostly did cartoons. Where's them Don Knotts movies and shit from Disney? I miss shit like that. They just not doing that.
Yeah,
crap.
No, I also miss the
labels. Touchstone Pictures is still owned by Disney that does things.
I still kind of miss when they had those weekly movies that Disney used to do and those weekly shows way back. I kind of miss those too.
Well, they went to them damn cable television channels and they started producing content for that crap, and they had to lower the quality and go even more kiddie. But for their motion picture stuff, they're pretty. It's Pixar and Marvel and their own Disney animation films, but it's still not. Yeah, they don't do enough regular movies, and I like regular movies. I like, and that whole day and date thing's kind of cool, and that's not going to kill movie theaters. But for somebody like me, that wasn't going to movie theaters anyway.
True, yeah, that's amazing.
Here's how embarrassing the last movie that I seen in a movie theater was Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and before that would have been the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and Batman, the third Batman movie, not the newer ones, but the ones from Nolan, the bad one. I went and seen it at the theater that had Bane in it.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually like that one.
Really? I hated that one. Yeah, I didn't like that third one at all. It was horrible. He had no right to fucking let Batman disappear like that. Yeah, if you want a podcast one night, we should get into that. My hate for what Nolan did. Just because you're a big time director and you made the studio a lot of money, you have no fucking right to do that. Just like Mangold and fucking the dude plays Wolverine had no right to kill that character just because they didn't want to make another fucking movie. That's bullshit. For your anyway. I'm sorry. I actually have one of my podcasts on here of me ranting for like an hour and a half about that when they. And that's a good movie with the Wolverine. Don't get me wrong. That third one.
Oh yeah, I
did not have to fucking kill him. The movie could have had just a big ending and just left it at that. He's in that state, I mean, because it was there was a lot of characters that they didn't have that was part of that whole storyline anyway, like the Hulk, and since they didn't own all those at that time, and Fox couldn't use those characters. But my thing is, just because you're a fucking Hollywood actor or a director doesn't give you the right to change shit because you don't want to play the character no more, or you don't want to get locked into directing just superhero movies. Fuck them guys.
I understand. I can respect the fact that they don't want to be locked in, but at the same time, they don't necessarily need to. I mean, there a lot of movies. Like look at the whole Marvel universe. They had tons of different directors throughout the whole.
And well, don't get me started on that too, because I'm still mad about them killing Iron Man. They had no right to fucking do that. No, they did not need to kill him. You know what? Kill one of them fucking minor characters. Yeah, but no, they got to go because they didn't want to pay, and this was cause they're like, you know what? He don't want to be in the movies anymore, which kind of now he does because he can't do anything else. He's too old. Nobody wants him for anything else. He could have done 3 or 4 more Iron Man movies, but or been in 3 or 4 other Marvel movies. But no, he demanded too much money, and they're like, fuck it, let's just finally kill him off after his last contract. We're not going to pay that anymore. And that's bullshit. You're killing a great character off because you don't. And you know what? Here's the thing. Someday, yeah, maybe you'll find another actor that can really fill those shoes and be good. But they're going to try to put some female in there and have a female Iron Man. That's going to be garbage. I'm sorry. I don't want to sound sexist, but Iron Man's a dude who's an alcoholic, super rich, playboy type character
yeah, Robert Downey Jr.
I don't want a female Iron Man. I don't want a little kid Iron Man. Hey, I'm the same with Spider-Man. Everybody gets mad at me, but I'm like, Miles Morales is fucking because there was no Hispanic superhero characters. They needed to do something. But really, you couldn't just come up with an original character that was Hispanic? I got no problem with that. I would have loved that. Spider-Man is Peter Parker. He didn't need that. Makes no sense to fucking make some other character. But that was in the comics. And once they done it, it was done. And now I get it. It's going to be in the movies and everything else. But again, at the time, you already have a Spider-Man. You didn't need another one. It's stupid. I just think that's stupid when they do that kind of stuff.
I don't disagree, but at the same time, I also disagree. In the sense of with Spider-Man, it's always been about like the multiverse. So there's different Spider-Men and women.
Not before Miles Morales, there wasn't. That's why that multiverse shit happened. Because they're like, well, we got to have.
But honestly, I'm okay with that. Just for me, I mean, for him, for them, I don't know. I like it. But
for the multiverse, yeah, I get it. And the people hated Miles Morales too. There's a lot of revisionist history going on now. Nobody bought those fucking comics. No one liked it, and so they backtracked and started saying, "Well, we got Spider Pig and we got Spider Gwen and this and that and the other, and it's all part of the Spider Verse and multiverse." And yeah, and then they quit making Miles Morales in the comics. I guess they're back printing, or I don't know, but I know for a long time they stopped doing the books because nobody was buying them, and I just don't agree when they do that with characters, and there have been characters that maybe it needed to be done. I guess for the comics, like sales dropped, and we got to shake things up, and let's kill a character off, and we can bring it back later, and let's do this or that, and I understand all that, but that's not what happened. Spider-Man was selling great. The reason they did Miles Morales was because Marvel was like, fuck, we don't have enough Hispanic customers. We need this. It's a money thing. And they just thought if they went with an all original character, they wouldn't be able to get enough people to read the books because they don't like doing new. They hate doing new because you got to save that for the smaller comic book labels that'll have new characters and shit. But the big ones, Marvel and DC, for whatever reason, just don't want to waste their time on something new. But they'll take an existing character and yeah, I'm just, that whole thing just bugs the shit out of me. And Because when in real life, when anybody that's white takes something from a different culture, they call it that culture vulture, and it's a bad thing. But when they do the reverse and let an African American play a white character or an Hispanic character play, or a straight character all of a sudden is now gay or trans, and that's always okay. But if you do it the other way, oh, that's bad. And all that shit just kind of pisses me off because I'm not very politically correct. And I just don't get it.
That's fine. That's cool. I can respect that. I don't know. Just for me, for what the character became, I like Miles Morales personally, and I don't mind the Spider Verse, but I understand what you're saying. It's
I never cared
the
for it. I
origins.
read a few of the books at the time, and I liked that movie was okay, although I thought it was a slap in the face to Peter Parker because they made him a drunk or whatever. And I was like, no, this guy's a superhero. He would have never turned out like that. But in that movie, they wanted to push down Peter Parker. It's kind of weird to make decisions like that. But granted, again, maybe that's what they did in the comics at some point. I don't know because I'd only read a couple of the Miles Morales stories. And of course, Peter Parker was supposed to be dead. It wasn't until people hated Miles Morales and wasn't buying. I shouldn't say hated. They didn't give a shit. Nobody was buying those comics. And they're like, fuck, we got to get Peter Parker back and get that shit going good. And we'll say it's from that multiverse crap. But they actually did kill Peter Parker. That's what I'm saying. This wasn't nothing to do with the Spider-Verse. Their plan was to actually just have it be Miles Morales. But I don't know. They also made Doc Ock Spider-Man too. So fuck. I don't know. What do I know? I thought that was a little stupid, but apparently that was quite popular for a while. But that was only in the comics, so hopefully that'll never end up in the movies.
Which one? The Doc Ock?
Yeah, Doc Ock. Yes, Doc Ock, the bad guy villain with the arms. He became Spider-Man in the comics. And for a couple of years,
I did not know that.
For a couple of years, he was Spider-Man. I'm like, really? Really? Yeah, they do some stupid stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I really hope that doesn't end up. Unfortunately, it hasn't ended up in any of the animations or anything. I've seen Doc Ock, in different forms, but never as a good guy or a spider.
He was a good guy as Spider-Man. He I don't know where I guess Spider-Man was off in one of the other multiverses, or maybe that's the one where he was dead in where Miles was at. I don't know. Because I was like, I'm never, ever going to pick up a comic with Doc Ock and Spider-Man and read that.
Yeah, that I would just. I agree with you. That I can't.
Look it up on the internet. Google that shit, and you'll see about it.
I definitely will. That's crazy. But that's Anyway. Yeah, so, but yeah, like I said, I really enjoy, despite the fact they kill some characters off, I really enjoy what Marvel has done, for the most part with their series.
Oh, I've got every one of them, and well, I shouldn't say I have them all on 4K. I have most of them on 4K, but still got some Blu-rays. But
yeah, I only have the newer ones in 4K.
Yeah, they're just great movies, and they do such an amazing job.
They really do.
I'm looking forward, and Blade kind of started it all. I haven't picked up my copy of Blade on 4K yet. I never bought it on Blu-ray. I still have the DVD.
Yeah, same here.
It definitely needs to be upgraded. So now that's out on 4K. As soon as I see it in the store, I'm gonna buy it. If I don't see it soon, I'll just order it from Amazon because I definitely want that on 4K.
Yeah, the first Blade was amazing. That was
Here's the thing: they told Wesley Snipes he was too old to play Blade, and then they turned around and hired a guy that's as old as Wesley Snipes to play Blade. I guess the guy's a lot better actor, but and he is. I mean, he was pretty fucking amazing in that where he played the bad guy for the first half of the television show on Netflix with Oh crap,
Oh, you're talking about the series? Yeah,
yeah,
right,
Salah Ali or whatever his name is.
right.
But he, yeah, that show. As soon as they killed his character, after halfway through it, the rest of it sucked, and the second season sucked. It just wasn't the same. He was just so good as the bad guy. They should have kept him, and instead they made his sister the bad guy. And it was like, what? That's dumb. And yeah, it was. But them people that was running the Netflix Marvel shows were not the smartest people on the block.
No, I mean they had some really good episodes and some good seasons, and then they just went weird directions at the
And
end.
then they let the media
And
destroy the Iron Fist, which I actually loved Iron Fist. I'm sorry.
I really enjoyed that one. No, I totally agree with you. I really liked it
Again,
too. I
that
thought it was
wasn't an
great.
Oriental guy playing the white character that was actually a white character in the comics. So they just fucking vilified it. And that guy, kid's a pretty good actor. He was in wasn't he on some Netflix show or HBO show? He was really good in. But boy, they just hated him in that.
I thought it was perfectly great. Fine. I
Yeah.
loved it. I really did.
Now I did hate most of the second season because they basically made that chick the star of Iron Fist instead of him, and it was like, yeah, that's not. If there was things wrong with season one, it wasn't that. Yeah, my God, that was like a slap in the face for season two. But yeah, she was a bigger star in it, and I'm like, well, just give her own show. You don't need to. Yeah, but I guess there was so much hate for that show, they wanted to do anything they could. But
yeah, unfortunately, it tapered
seasons were
off.
great, and the Punisher was good. And some of those people all now working on the. Here's what's funny: a lot of people don't know this. A lot of those people that worked on those shows, they're working on all these new Marvel shows that are going to be on Disney Plus. They just don't talk about it, but trust me, the behind the scenes people,
I don't doubt it.
main one, the main guy that ran Marvel Television, they did get rid of him because him and Feige did not get along. And Feige was like, well, fuck it. Back in the day, said, fuck it. Let him do his TV. I'll take care of the movies. And of course, the movies were, everything was billion-dollar franchises. And the TV shows were, the Netflix ones were good. They were really, really good. But they wasn't, yeah. And by the time they did the television version of the, what is it? Was it the Internals or no? They teased on the other Marvel show about them, and then they gave them their own show for one season. Hell, it didn't even last the whole season, but it was really horrible. But yeah, anyway, they got rid of that guy. But I'm talking about some of the producers and the people that were actually on the sets making the shows and things. All those people ended up getting jobs over at Disney Plus, and they're some of the people that's working on the like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we've not seen none of them yet. You just know those shows are going to be great. Even WandaVision, I think, will end up being great.
I'm not crazy about the name, but yeah.
No, I hated the name, and I'm not sure I'm a fan of the ideal about where they tried to make stuff like sitcoms, her different fantasy parts of it and stuff, but I'm sure it all makes sense once you watch it. It'll still be amazing.
I don't doubt it. I mean, I'll watch it. I just, like I said, it's just that name.
I always hated the Scarlet Witch anyway in the comics, and I always thought she was like the worst Avenger. But yeah, whatever. I think it was just that her costume I didn't like. I thought was crappy.
But so I unfortunately do need to get going.
Yeah, we ran a little long, man. I'm sorry. Holy shit.
Yeah.
We went a lot longer than we were supposed to.
But that's okay. It was a good talk. It was hopefully.
Yeah, I'm glad to get back on there on Saturday nights. I want to keep doing this show. I think
yeah.
we'll finally get an audience so we can just consistently be on week in, week out, and get a few guest spots from some people. And I've had some people tell me they want to be on, and I wasn't gonna, since we hadn't been on in a few weeks, or actually what, month and a half.
Yeah, it was a while.
It's been a while. I mean, it's been long enough that I actually had a stroke and recovered from it. So it's been a while, but I've had some people say that they'd come on for us, and so once we get a couple more episodes under our belt, I'll start calling them out on it and say, "Hey, man, I need to get some people on my show to get a few viewers." But we'll see.
Yeah, it was awesome when we had Xbot and
yeah,
that was awesome. So, and Skint Eastwood, that's it.
Yeah.
So, but
I
yeah,
was going to send him a link today to see if he wanted to come on or not, and I forgot to. I'm part of a group that does Mad's Gaming next podcast, and he wanted to expand and do like 3 podcasts a week, and he added a bunch of people, and now none of them ever show up. But I dropped our link on that on Twitter on the DMs we have for that thing to see if any of those guys wanted to show up, but none of them did, so none of them ever came in. But yeah, they don't even come on Mads' show. We didn't have any show this past week. Originally, it was supposed to go from we used to be on every Wednesday, and then we went to Friday, and then he expanded it, and it was going to be every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then immediately nobody was showing up for the Wednesday show, and so he went to every Monday and Friday, and then 2 weeks ago it was just one show, and last week was just one. I think last week he did have a Monday and a Friday, but this week, well, I shouldn't call it this week because it's already Saturday, but yeah, well, it's still this week. We didn't even do a show, but he got about 8 people, but yeah, they're not showing up like they should. I liked it was just me, him, and Jamie Moran. We were always there every week, and we had built up a pretty decent audience.
Oh yeah,
but the new guys are all good too. I mean, but yeah, I don't know. They just I don't know. The magic is gone, so to speak. I think we had Wandering Dutch on there, and we added an extra person, and then he stopped showing up because he's doing his own shows and things. But yeah, Mads does so many videos. I think he don't care anyway whether he's got a podcast or not. His videos is what gets him his channel. But anyway, yeah, I've kept you on here too long. I'm just really talking about stuff that's not germane to this podcast or anything else. So tell them where they can find you, man.
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter, Grey Wolf Gamer 1. That is my Twitter handle, and feel free to like and hit me up if you have any questions, or if you just want to talk or chat or just friend me. Feel free.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm on Twitter, Mojo_Blues1. I just tweeted out that Super Game Boy adapter. Couple pictures of it, still in its box, brand new.
Cool. I'll check that out myself. I'm also just now posting a picture of the Rendering Ranger R2 game, so you'll see that on my Twitter shortly.
Okay, sweet. Yep, I'm looking at it right now. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up on my Super Nintendo thing that I got. It's got all the games on it, and go through the Japanese ones and find it. But yeah, that's weird. My Game Boy is right under in my timeline. You're like the top, and I'm like right under it.
I have a few between yours and mine, but yeah, we're near each other on mine.
Yeah.
So, but
I don't have too many on mine anymore. Anybody that like says something like Xbox has no games, I just block them now. Even if they were just trying to be funny, it's just not. I just block them.
Yeah, I
really got hardcore on it, and I feel bad because I turn around and do the same shit and make fun of like PlayStation's on fire and things like that. And I shouldn't do that, but yeah, I do.
Yeah,
And then yet I
I
turn around
know
and
when
get
I
mad when people does it the other way and block them.
Yeah, I don't care what people say about anything I do or don't like. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I always take it in good stride. I mean, even I joke about stuff I love. Like I said, I love the Saturn, and I'll make jokes about it. You know that it had issues. Hey, but I don't doesn't mean I don't like it any less, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm just cool
Well,
with
I've
that.
owned every
And if somebody
PlayStation.
trashes it, yeah,
I've owned every Nintendo console and every PlayStation console,
sure.
and I'll continue to do so in the future. But I'm still an Xbox guy, right for right now, anyway. I
Yeah,
think,
I'm just like in everything. I'm more pragmatic. I just if it's a game and I want to play it, I don't care what system it's on. I'll play it as long as I
yeah,
have
sometimes
access to
I'll
it.
wait a while before I
I mean, I
buy
don't
a
own every system, but
certain game. But yeah, I PlayStation I don't have a problem with, but I do have some problems with Sony as a company. They're pretty dirty,
oh
underhanded.
yeah, they are.
I'll never forgive them for.
I'm not gonna.
I know Sega was mismanaged. I mean, you can't have the way it was run with Sega Japan, Sega of America. It was a train wreck waiting to happen. And although Nintendo had a Nintendo of America, but yet Nintendo of Japan made all the decisions. Always came out of Japan, and up until now, all the real decisions from the Sony has always come out of the Japanese executives, not the dudes that were part of Sony of America. But at some point after during the PS3 era, the Japanese executives kind of loosened the reins a bit and started letting the Sony of America make a lot of decisions, and that carried through the entire PlayStation 4 generation. And now their headquarters that used to be in Japan, all those Japanese dudes are all in America now. Their headquarters is in the US. They moved it out of Japan. And then they moved their same thing for the Sony Europe. It's gone, doesn't exist. They just moved them all. The ones that didn't lose their jobs just moved to America. It's all just Sony now, Sony Entertainment or SIA or whatever, SIE. I forget what they call it, but SIE, Sony Interactive Entertainment. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's no
Yeah,
longer different divisions in different parts of the world. There's just one, and that dude Ryan runs it all. Whereas when Leighton was running it, Ryan still run Europe. And if he didn't want a certain game in Europe, it wouldn't get sold in Europe. Or if he wanted a game just in Europe, it was just sold in Europe. And how stuff was advertised for, that was his decisions. And then Japan made their own decisions for the Asian market. It was just weird. But still, it was always the ultimate decision was what Japan wanted. If they said something, that's what it was. And with Sega, that wasn't how it always was. They screwed things up that way. But
yeah,
Sony
they butted heads a lot.
the nail in the coffin, and it was funny because Sony was pissed off at Nintendo. That's who they wanted to get rid of. But Nintendo was so strong, even with the fucking sorry ass N64. Sony could not crush them. So
Nope.
they said, well, fuck it, we'll crush Sega. They're fucking up anyway, so let's just fucking kill them. And they did. And I've never forgave them for it. So, yeah, whatever. I'm just being silly now. Anyway, all right, bro. We will do this again next week. I like these Saturday night shows, and
Definitely.
try not to keep it so long next week.
Well, it's a good talk, man. It's always a great talk talking to you. So appreciate it.
Yeah, we are the and we're going to get labeled the most unstructured podcast on the internet, and I love that.
You know what? That's still going to be our thing. Yes.
Yeah. I like it.
Anything and everything.
If we never get more than a handful of listeners, that's fine. I'm not going to do the same show that everybody else does because everybody else is doing that. I don't want to do that. You know?
Yeah, something different.
Yeah, we're not the Iron Lords. We're not RDX. I'm not going to try that. I like what we do. Two guys just talking about games. And
that's all,
we do
that's all it needs to be.
We're not structured, and we don't hit set topics. And if anything's current, yeah, we talk about it, of course. But we also talk about this an adapter that plays Game Boy Advance games on a Super Nintendo. That is so fucking cool, man. I'm so pumped. I forgot I had that, and I'm almost embarrassed that I didn't use it. It will go into use now. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, and let it. Maybe we could do another podcast. Let us know. What you think of it. That's just I love that stuff. I do.
Yeah, I do
It's
too.
just
Well, I want to see what the quality is compared to, because I already know the quality is amazing playing Game Boy Advance games on your GameCube. You
right.
know, so we'll see what it is playing them on the Super Nintendo. But yeah, because like I said, I've got a couple of Game Boy Advance things that are EverDrives, and one of them sucks. You have to actually go in each game that you've downloaded. You got to go in and change the dot letter thing at the end.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
you got to kind of run it, so it takes about. It don't take a long time. It takes about 2 minutes per game, but it's a kind of a pain in the ass. But once you do it, they work fine. But the other one I got, you just download those ROMs and boom, they play great. And yeah, but that would cost a lot more. So the one that didn't cost much money, you have to go in and run a little program that changed the end identifier of it to make it play. But either way, I've got two different ones, and so I've got a lot of Game Boy Advance games that I'm a huge GBA fan. All right, bro, let's get off here. I'm going to end this podcast right now.
Yep. All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
We'll never get off here. 3, 2, 1. We're done.